All right.
You're doing great.
Thank you. There we go there. There we go. Okay. All right, ready?
Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of True Crime and Cocktails, Famous Fatalities Edition. As always, I am your host, Lauren Ash, and as always, I am joined by my co-hostess with the mostest, Christy Oxborough. How you doing?
I'm going to say it. I am jazzed.
Yes, there it is.
I have realized this past week, the way you feel about serial killers is how I feel about the British family, the royal family. I am darkly fascinated by everything they do. I don't understand what they do, but I am fascinated by it.
I love this revelation.
It's taken me back. I mean, I'm also going to make a very bold claim.
Wow.
And I'll die on this mountain. Again, I'm jazzed. We're talking about somebody's death and tragic death. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to be smiling the whole way through because this week I came alive. My bold claim, I'm going to say Princess Diana is our generation's JFK.
Wow. You know what? I would agree with that.
Because you got your boomers who are always like, you know where you were when you heard the news. And I truly believe Princess Diana is our version of like, most people probably remember how they heard about it or whatever. So
yeah,
it's been a real joy this week. I love the royal family. They're so naughty. I love them all. I love everything about it. I watched 9 different documentaries for this.
Wow.
Some of which had nothing to do with her death. For example, I watched one that was about different outfits she's worn because she was like a fashion icon, and I was fascinated by it. And then I read 3 books on top of that, but that's not the point. So not a lot of sleeping, so I'm a little...
I just want to go back for a second. You watched 9 documentaries and you read 3 books.
Yes,
in a week.
And then I did watch some of the interviews of her I couldn't find on YouTube. So, and then I started watching the royal wedding, but I didn't have time.
I wonder why.
Yeah, I did start playing it in the background while I was organizing my notes. But yeah, if I could start a Princess Diana or British monarchy podcast. I want to talk about them all the time. Looking at my notes, I could do 6 full episodes of our show, like 6 2+ hour episodes, just talking about them. I love it so much. I don't know what it is, but it has woken something up within me that I'm just buzzing.
Listen, I love this. I feel like it plays some sort of homage to our grandmother, our shared grandmother, who is of course English, and she did kind of bear a striking resemblance to Queen Elizabeth.
Yes.
And in Canada, where we grew up, obviously, Queen Elizabeth is on our money. It's on she's on our cash. And as a little kid, I thought it was our grandmother. I was just like, it's grandma without glasses.
Where do you think all of this started? Because it's just, you see the Queen, and I mean, obviously, height difference, very different.
Oh.
Because I mean, the Queen is tiny.
Is she? I don't.
You could just slip her in a pocket. She is tiny. She is very tiny.
I don't know that much about the royals, to be honest with you.
For example, this isn't even in my notes. See, now I've become you from last week. I just knew. You know how the Queen always wears like a super gaudy, bright outfit?
Yeah.
Do you know why that is?
No.
So that the security can always easily find her in a crowd.
Oh, that makes sense.
But, you know, same with snipers. That's not
It
the point.
it does feel like a flawed system, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Hey, here's something to make sure you can be seen by everyone.
Yeah.
Giant target.
Actually, that's probably also why they do it, to make sure, like, because they have like hundreds of thousands of people that show up to stuff sometimes. And when she's way up on that balcony, you can't see her. So, well, that's going to make her seen.
Right?
But
Wow.
it's always just gaudy. But I fucking love it. I would get a coffee table book that just has outfits of the British monarchy. I'm not even a bit embarrassed about that.
I don't think you should be.
I think maybe I'm underslept because I'm a little like, I feel like I've had like 80 cups of coffee, even though I don't drink coffee, but like that's the nerve rattling in my brain right now. So I'm feeling a little lab rat trying caffeine for the first time, you know?
Well, what's amazing about that is that I also feel completely criminally insane, and I think that it's nice that I somehow feel like you've passed me, which is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, listen, I mean, there's so much to get to. The first order of business, of course, is I've got to ask you the question on everybody's mind, which is what you drinking over there?
You know, I'm desperately in the process of trying to come up with a cocktail that I just make myself all the time that I love, you know, until some sort of alcohol wants to come through and just sponsor us. And then I'll drink that and only that. I'll bathe in it if they want me to. So until then,
it's
I'm like,
really, really harsh contract. Wait, I can only drink tequila?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess.
Yeah.
My skin has never been better.
My kids nap all the time. No. But I'm trying to slowly experiment with some things. So I just took like a couple of juices and a little bit of Sprite and some vodka and of course bit of lime. And it's a journey. It's okay, but obviously you're not going to get a home run on the first time. So
sure,
it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. Right. But there is work I can improve on it. But it's going down. So I didn't do that bad.
I never doubted you. Now, what I've decided to do is a little bit of an homage to the theme. Of course, if you haven't already gathered, again, you've clicked on the episode, you probably know we are going to be talking about Princess Diana in this episode of the show. Now, I am doing a kind of pairing. So this is my homage to Lady Di. The first is her becoming a member of the royal family, and that is this can of Diet Dr. Pepper. This is her when she's just a commoner. She's just an everyday lady. Okay. I'm sure I'm wrong. She was never a commoner.
She was never a commoner, but
yeah,
okay.
Again, I know. This is before everybody knew her.
Yes,
okay. This is before everybody knew her. Okay.
Yeah.
And then she got engaged to Prince Charles, and then she became, what's this? It's a cran mosa in what could be best described as a powder pink glass goblet I have. There's a weight to this, just so you know, like this is no joke. I went to the Madonna Inn, which is kind of this kitschy tourist place in California. I took my mom when she was visiting once. And they sell these in every color under the sun. And it's like a little souvenir memento, but I love these glasses. I never use them. I feel like this is the most royal thing I own. So I've put it's just a cran mosa. And I feel very dignified. So again, it's a two-parter. We've got the janky Dr. Pepper, Diet Dr. Pepper out of a can, and then the very regal cran mosa out of the glass goblet. Here we go. Delish.
What I would like is for you to keep that up. So anytime you're on Dr. Pepper, it's the regular voice. Anytime you're drinking from that fancy goblet.
I did kind of debate. I was like, do I do the intro like, what's up, everybody? Like, do I just start in a British accent? And I was like, there's a lot of room for that to go off the rails repeatedly. So I didn't. Does part of me regret it? Sure I do. But, listen, we all make mistakes. It should also be noted, I have been working for so many days. I'm on a television show. Most of you probably know that, but for those who don't, I'm on a television show that's coming to an end after 6 seasons. It's a very emotional time, and to get the last 2 episodes in time, done in time, we are shooting 12 days in a row with no breaks, and they are long days, and I am just I'm a woman on the edge. So if my energy seems what some would refer to as jagged, that is why. But I'm so happy to be here. I mean, this is a light in my day. Good God. Um Anyway, yeah. If at any point you're watching the video of this and my eyes just seem to like look crazy, if I seem like I'm weeping at some point, it's all just, again, everything's very at the surface for me right now. You know what I mean?
Oh, brace your emotions because I'm going to be taking you on a hell of a ride.
Oh my gosh. I never doubted it. I never doubted it. It should also be mentioned very quickly that Princess Diana, of course, was our Patreon poll pick. So if you do not know this, we have a Patreon. You can visit us at patreon.com/truecrimeandcocktails. And on there, we have polls where you can decide one of the episodes we'll record about each month. We give you a lot of different options of potential cases, and we choose the one that gets the most votes. There's also bonus episodes, lots of fun stuff over on there. So give us a little visit if you haven't checked it out yet. Now, when we were talking about Princess Diana and the royals, obviously we were like, how does this connect to us? I just realized as we were talking now that our grandmother looks like the queen. So that already feels like a connection. But we were talking about a time in our lives because Diana obviously has said, or it was known that she felt like a prisoner at the palace, right? That was a kind of known thing. And so Christy sent me a text that said, hey, do you remember a time in our lives where we felt like prisoners? And immediately I knew exactly what she was talking about. So this would have been, I can't remember if I think we've told part of this story before, but we didn't get into all of it.
I think we told part of it on a Patreon bonus episode.
Ah, that may be what it is. So, well, listen, you're getting a bonus of the bonus.
Yeah.
So at the time, Christy was living in Alberta, Canada. I almost said Alberta, Saskatchewan. That is,
I would have let it go.
I'm, again, jagged. Okay. So Christy was living in Alberta and with a gentleman who's not your husband.
No, thank God. But
Yes.
Yeah,
And
I was young.
You were very young. I was still in high school, so you were quite young.
Yeah, I was 19 when I moved there. So,
yeah,
you live and you learn.
So, I went out to visit her, and my high school boyfriend came with me. So the two of us we flew out, and then there was this one day that we were so excited that we were going to just have some downtime together.
Yeah.
We were going to we were going to watch Monday Night Raw because we were big into wrestling at the time. Shout out to your love of The Rock.
I was actually just going to say, I did smell what The Rock is cooking. Like I wanted to do something, but yes, you're right. That is where my love of The Rock happened. And I know he's now known as Dwayne Johnson, but my love was for The Rock. I love Dwayne Johnson. The Rock is where it's at.
Yeah.
And I mean, my God, Chris Jericho? Come
Remember
on.
him?
I do. I do. Or at least Blanche does.
Yeah. Well, I met Chris Jericho once. Remember that story? In an East Side Mario's in Canada. And it was in high school. And it was me and two friends. And we went up and he was like, no autographs, just photos. And in the photo with me, he's like looking the other way. And I was like, oh my God, I mean, again, like now it's like he would, I'm sure, be so excited for anyone to take a photo with him. Yeah, you know what? I said it because I've got jagged energy and I don't give a fuck anymore. So if you're listening, Chris Jericho, you should have been nicer to your teenage fans. It was fine. We were happy to get the photos. I got an edge off of him. Point being. This is going great.
This has so many ways it could go from here.
What I like is that I'm probably going to go through a real range of emotion. Right now, I'm just in the like irritable anger phase. It's gonna again, you'll see like the stages of grief or something maybe by the end of this episode. Anyway, so we were so excited because Christy's boyfriend was not, or fiance rather, excuse me, at the time was not going to be home. My high school boyfriend had met up with his brother who lived out there. So this was our like alone time, which we were so excited about. And of course, your mother-in-law, your fiance's mother had different plans.
I love that this is over 20 years ago and I still have so much anger towards that bitch. Now, you guys might be thinking, sorry, you people might be thinking like, why do you have to be so harsh on her? Well, we don't have time to get into it, but she was pretty awful to me. She would make up lies about me and then tell her son, and he would believe her. And when I'd be like, well, here is proof that she's lying. And he's like, well, she's my mother. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
She
no
was,
thanks.
but like, yeah, okay. So she was kind of awful. And yeah, she heard that you were in town and was like, well, obviously, we need to have you guys all over for supper. And he then also decided he was going to take the day off from work just to spend it with us, because that was the moment in time where people started to like, they wanted to be around us. They wanted our energy.
Yep.
That was the turning point in our moment.
That was the turning point where it went from people hating being around us to loving being around us. Yeah, totally.
God, I bet if he found out we had a Patreon. No, I never want this man to know anything. Oh God, I can't stand
him. You never
him.
know.
Anyhow,
depends how often he Googles you, which I would put my money on is a lot.
Well, but I've got a married name now.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, so I feel a little incognito. It's fine. I would love if I think he's married, so I would love if his wife became a fan, and then it was like she was listening to an episode and it's like, guess what? Your husband is garbage. So yeah,
married, literal trash, lady, literal trash.
She did. But we're not going to get into the other relationship stuff because that's a doozy. But the point is, we rarely get to see each other. We were just really excited to have this time to finally be alone so we could whisper and gossip, because this was the first time you were meeting the man that I foolishly thought I would marry.
Yeah.
And didn't, thank God. So happy about the choice that I made there.
Yeah.
But we were excited. We wanted to talk about it. And we normally, when we do trips, we share a bed.
That's right.
And we like fall asleep giggling and then like immediately wake up in the morning giggling about something else. And this time it's like we were in different rooms and it felt weird. And so I was like, no, Kate, we're gonna do this right. We're gonna have that one day, because the next day we had to take you to the airport. And then he's like, oh, I'm gonna take the day off. And then, well, my mom's invited us for dinner. And while that is sweet, at the same time, we're like, but we have plans. And I know that Monday Night Raw doesn't seem like plans to some people, but it was like a thing. And we watched it apart. We wanted to see it together. We were so ready to go. We were very excited. And you were vegetarian at the time.
Yes.
And she invited us, and in the call, like she found out about this trip and immediately invited us within 5 hours. And it was, well, they can miss their wrestling. It's fine. It's not a big deal. And then what does Lauren like? And we were like, well, she's a vegetarian, and that's all she needed to hear. So we get to their house and there were like 9-10 kinds of vegetables. Just like there's peas, there's corn. I love that I literally can't think of another vegetable.
And the pressure for me was so high, because it was like, you've clearly only served 9 vegetable options for me. And I was like, I guess I have to eat some of all of them. And I remember there was comments being made that were like, you're not eating that much. And it's like, well, no, I am. But when you can only eat so much of like a fibrous vegetable, like a plate of vegetables is actually like a lot. Like it's very, very filling to eat like carrots, corn, peas, green beans. Like it was at the end of the day, it felt very heavy. And normally, again, people tend to balance it with something else. I mean, very sweet again that she went so far, but for me, it's a lot of pressure to put on someone. And then just don't comment. I hate when people are like commenting that like either you're not eating enough or you're eating, you know what I mean? It's like, just don't comment. Like, I'm eating what I'm eating, and I've been very thankful and gracious. So why do we need to talk about how much I'm consuming,
because she was a bitch. I mean, again, was that a very thoughtful thing? Yes. But again, this woman was the devil. I'm sure she still is. But
and this is the other thing too, because we were like, look, okay, here's what we can do. If we go for dinner at this time, we can still get home in time for Raw. So we kind of tried to puppeteer it timing wise. And she was like, so we had kind of alluded that we had this thing to get to. And she was like, oh, okay, fine. And that's where you kind of see the manipulation come into play. Because as soon as we were done that meal, it was like, well, guess what? This isn't over. It was like, well,
Yeah.
what have you shown Lauren while she's been here? And it was like, oh, well, not much. Because again, it really wasn't about, like, I don't need to see the sights in, I don't even remember what the town was. It was a small
Uh,
town.
we lived in Hinton, Alberta.
That's right. That
It's
was
like 3 hours from Edmonton, I think.
yes. And I was like, I'm good. Like, I don't need to, like, this is fine. Like, you did take me out. We did do some things, but it was less
Yeah.
about, it's not like I'm not there as a tourist. Right. But anyway, she was aghast that we hadn't done anything touristy. And so it was like, well, get in the van. And we were like, but wait, like, it's time for us to go watch our show. And it's like, get in the van. And it was literally one of those things where we were taken. And I know that sounds dramatic, but I mean, again, as a 19 and an 18-year-old, I would like to think that we could have more agency over our own bodies. Like, why did we have to get in the van? Because we kept saying no. It was like, it's
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, it's just not okay.
Yeah. There was a lot of like, we're going to take these two ladies. They're going to get in the back of a van,
Yep.
whether they like it or not.
Yep.
And they're going to go have a great fucking time. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
no. I remember like a lot of like, what a terrible host you are. I can't believe you wouldn't take her, because we were like 20 minutes or so from like the gorgeous Jasper, Alberta, which is like very picturesque, like mountains and whatever. And so it's like,
You're 20, but also keep in mind, you're 20 minutes if you're commuting. When we made the drive that night, it was having to stop, look at the mountain goats, drive 5 feet. What's over here? Which I get. Again, I get all of this, but the point is that we didn't want it, and it was put upon us. So the 20-minute drive took more like 40 minutes to get there. And then it was like, I felt like we had to eat ice cream or something. And I was like, I also like, I'm not a huge ice cream person, which I know is crazy, but I prefer a salty snack. Anyway, it was just like every step of the turn, we were not into it. And then there was that beautiful double rainbow, I remember standing outside the store again. And that was the other thing, is that it was like the trip that they so desperately needed me to go on was taking this drive to a souvenir store.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm also from Canada. Like, I know I'm not from there, but it,
Yeah. I mean, I will forever remember us. Like, they also made us sit in the back of this minivan, so we couldn't reach the door. So it was like, we were in the back, and then it was like my fiance and his brother, I think, and then the parents were in the front, because everybody had to go, because it couldn't just be like, you guys know, you have to take her, and then we could just lie about it. No, we'd never lie to his mother. But like, it was just too much. And I remember us driving and then them being like, hey, look at the animals, girls. And we're just sitting in the back. Like, suddenly we were like 12 years old. We're like, this is so great. And then, yes, we went to that souvenir store. We like, it's so tiny. We walked around. We're like, great. And then we were done. And so we got back in our spot in the van in the back, and we're sitting there, and his mother gives you some sort of souvenir that she has purchased for you, so you can always remember this lovely trip. I don't remember what it was, some sort of small stuffed animal and like a magnet or something. Yeah. Right. And then I'm sitting beside you, and 2 seconds later, the very same stuffed animal and magnet gets thrown at my face. And I'm like, what is that? Oh, it's my fiance throwing this at me. And I went, oh, what is this? And he goes, she said you had to have one too, or you'd get jealous. And I'm like,
it's like, first of all, you just don't know who you're dealing with here, people. And second of all, just get us home so we could at least catch the end of Raw. We beg you. I think we only ended up seeing like 1 or 2 matches in the end, if that.
Yeah.
The point is, that's the closest that and listen, God bless that's the closest we've ever come to being, taken. Kidnapped. But I'll say this, it's terrifying and extremely irritating. So I definitely feel for Diana.
Yeah, I love that was our level of prisoner, but like, I get that it's like, oh, you guys, but really, like, in the moment, it was like, we don't want to be here. We've been pushed into a vehicle. We don't like it. We're not making light on actual abductions.
Of course
but
not.
The point is, in the moment, we were like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me.
which again, I guess is a blessing in the long run. But I think the bigger point just being is just, again, it's like, it's so tough when you actually do stand up for yourself, because it's hard in those moments when people are being nice. And we did communicate that we actually thank you so much, but we're good. We would actually like to keep our plans. And they were just completely ignored. And that for me is just, I guess that's a big pet peeve. But anyway,
just listen to women when they talk.
Yeah. I think that's what it comes down to. Please, when we speak, just listen, hear, and then respect our choices.
Yeah.
Which again brings us very nicely as a nice segue back into Princess Diana, who again, she didn't really have a lot of choices, it feels like at points, but I know you're going to tell me all about it because I'm looking at the list of research you've done and it is extensive. She is not kidding. So I'm sure everybody is probably familiar with who we're speaking about, but I'll just give you a little quick synopsis. In 1981, 19-year-old Lady Diana Spencer was thrust into the media spotlight after her engagement to Charles, Prince of Wales. Through their tumultuous marriage and subsequent divorce, Diana remained a media darling until her sudden death in Paris 16 years later. So what really happened that night in Paris? Was Diana's death just a tragic accident, or was it part of a sinister plot carried out by British intelligence by order of the Queen? I love the intrigue. Also, fun fact, the grade school that I went to was named Prince of Wales.
Well, that's fun.
Prince of Wales Public School. There you go.
My fun fact in this moment was going to be, someone's back to being jazzed.
Your face has flushed again. Yeah, you are very excited.
Could not be more excited. Like, this has taken over my entire life for so many days now. And there's going to be a lot of information here. I'm going to say a lot of things, and we're going to get to the end of this. And I'm sorry, but most of you, dear listeners, are going to be like, so what was the point of that first hour? Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Her story, Diana's story, is already tragic. Dying as young as she did and leaving behind children. But there is like a level that kicks it up a notch to even more tragic when you realize her life leading up to this point. So I have taken a few things out, just time-wise, but this is gonna be a hearty episode, so everybody buckle up. Also, my fun fact to start us off, the name Princess Diana was actually created by the media.
Oh.
Because when she got married, she was officially Her Royal Highness Diana, Princess of Wales. So she was never officially Princess Diana, but that's just what the media called her, and it kind of stuck. But
interesting.
Yeah, don't worry. There's more fun facts where that came from.
I never doubted it.
I also am a little nervous because I am so excited. I'm so excited that they chose this episode for us. I was really rooting for it. Don't get me wrong. I would like to do all of the cases that we put up on Patreon, but and we will eventually. But absolutely. I could not have been more excited about this one. So again, like, there's going to be a lot of information. I'm going to try and get through it as quick as I can in some spots. I chose tonight, it is specifically in chronological order because my friend Ben Feldman said that he prefers it that way. So fight me on saying he's my friend. Fight me.
Listen, I'm not. He's my friend.
So I knew you wouldn't fight me. I'm just saying anybody else. And it's like, we've had a face-to-face. I was his therapist for like 2 minutes. So
I love it.
Yeah. So I'm going to do my best to, just go in order. So we're going to start in a place that everyone's like, what the fuck are you talking about? We're going to start with a gentleman named Johnny Allthorpe.
Wow.
So Johnny, everybody calls him Johnny. So it just feels very like man's man Johnny, but Johnny was Viscount Allthorpe at the time, and he would later become Earl Spencer. He marries a woman named Frances in 1954. Over the next 10 years, they have 5 children and a miscarriage. Their oldest son died within the first 10 hours of his life. In 1966, Frances, at only 28 years old, decides she's a little bored. She meets a man, and the next year, Frances and Johnny agree to a trial separation.
Oh.
But then less than 6 months later, Frances wants a divorce, and Johnny was livid. So out of anger, he said she can have the divorce, but she's leaving the kids. They end up battling over custody, and Frances's own mother, Ruth, gave evidence against her in court. So she ended up giving up and willingly walking away from her children.
Wow.
This event caused a longing for love and a fear of abandonment that would remain a part of their youngest daughter, Diana, forever.
Wow.
Now we're getting into it.
Yep.
Diana Frances, born July 1st, 1961. Johnny and Frances were disappointed that she was a girl.
Oh, no. That's never fun.
Yep. She was the third daughter to be born, and they desperately wanted a male heir. And at the time, women were seen as second-class citizens in the Spencer family. Now, this Spencer family has a very interesting bloodline. It includes children of 2 kings, a duke, and a saint. Diana is distantly connected to George Washington. She's the 7th cousin to Humphrey Bogart and Rudolph Valentino. And she's the 11th cousin to the heir of the British throne, who's also known as Charles, the Prince of Wales.
No. I didn't know they were related.
Again, this family is naughty as hell.
We talk about this a lot, though, because I mean, that's a thing, right? Like the royals like to keep the bloodline pure or whatever, keep it royal, or I don't know what the terminology is, but so there is kind of, I mean, it's not, that's like, there's not a right terminology for it because it's not really inbreeding. I guess it kind of is, but not. I mean, they're distant, but it's still like icky.
From what I can tell, especially like, I liked it a lot. Like, especially like years ago, and like very early on in like kingdoms, just everybody was bumping uglies with everybody else. You know what I mean? Like there's just a lot going on. And it was very like, well, you have to marry someone of a certain status and whatever. And it's like, well, at some point there's only going to be so many of those. But yeah.
Right.
So Charles, born Charles Philip Arthur George, November 1948. He was the eldest son of Queen Elizabeth II. In July 1958, he became Prince of Wales. Prince of Wales is a title traditionally and ceremonially granted to the heir apparent of the British throne. Charles is the longest serving Prince of Wales, as well as the longest serving heir apparent in British history.
Really?
Because
that's interesting.
That Queen Elizabeth, that lady's going to go forever. She's going to outlive us all.
Yeah. Yeah, she's
his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, is the world's longest serving monarch. In 1970, Charles meets a woman named Camilla Shand at a polo match in Windsor Great Park. They share a love of polo, but also a similar sense of humor, and were amused by the fact that Camilla's great-grandmother was the mistress of Charles' great-great-grandfather. Cheating runs in their bloodlines. I did make some sassy notes.
I like the cheeky comment for sure.
Because again, could not be more excited. And I worried that my excitement would get rid of the sass. Charles became known as the Playboy Prince, continuing to meet women at polo matches. He was romantic and fell in love easily, but had a low libido and was frightened of young women. But no matter how many women he dated, he never stopped loving Camilla. So at this time, Camilla is older than Charles, only by like a year and a bit, but it was still very, I don't know, should we say uncouth? Maybe. That feels.
We may.
Thank you.
It was frowned upon.
Thank you.
A young male should not take a wife who's older than he.
Yeah. Well, not to mention she was also, oh God, what's a nice way of putting it? Worldly by this point.
Oh.
And so she was not seen as a suitable match for Charles. So Camilla married Andrew Parker Bowles in 1973, but remained Charles's confidant. So 1977, Charles dates Diana's oldest sister, Sarah.
I didn't know that.
I really expect to hear that a lot in the next couple hours.
I'm going to have to try and think of different ways to say it. Because it's going to become like a broken record.
I'm living for it either way. The relationship ended after Sarah gave an interview in which she described their relationship as totally platonic. I think of him as the big brother I never had. They remained friends, and Charles invited Sarah and her sister Diana to his 30th birthday the next year. So now around this part, 1979, Charles and Camilla resumed their sexual relationship. Her husband, Andrew, not only knew about it, he also condoned it because he too was fucking around on the side.
Wow.
This family gives me life.
This is the reality show. This is the original reality show when you really think about it.
Yeah. I'm also realizing that like The Crown would be the ultimate thing I would want to watch. I just have not had time to get into it.
I think that
but
that should be prioritized for you.
The fact that I'm practically eating the microphone, I'm so excited.
You keep getting closer too, which is amazing.
Because I know what's coming and my cool is not being cool.
Okay.
Oh, Lord. So at this point, Charles is under intense pressure to get married. His duty was to have a son and secure the House of Windsor. So it was imperative that he marry an aristocrat who was Roman Catholic and a virgin. So on paper, Diana was perfect. So Charles and Diana reconnect at a summer weekend at a mutual friend's house in 1980. Couple weeks later, they go on their third date where she meets the royal family at their Scotland home, Balmoral. Now, at this point, Diana is 19 years old and Charles is 32. And this is her first like big relationship in her life. So February 1981, just a few months later, they announced their engagement. Prior to this, Diana had to call him sir. It wasn't until they were engaged that she had the permission to call him Charles. I don't believe this was his specific thing. I believe this was just specifically royal stuff, which also will get maddening as this goes on, I promise.
Yeah, I'm sure of it.
At the announcement of their engagement, the press asked how they felt and said, "Oh, in love?" Diana said, "Of course." Charles said, "Whatever in love means."
Okay,
Charles,
Romeo.
Charles is my favorite character in this story because he's just a complete oaf, but somehow a real person. He just cocks up time and time again, and I'm just wildly fascinated by it.
Yeah.
Oh, he never deserved Diana. He deserves Camilla, but yeah, I'll get mean about Camilla later.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
Yeah. So it was essentially an arranged marriage because Diana's grandmother was best friends with the Queen Mother, and they kind of both pushed this to make this happen.
Right.
So Diana said, "I remember being so in love with my husband that I couldn't take my eyes off him. I just absolutely thought I was the luckiest girl in the world."
Oh.
Charles later admitted he really hoped he would grow to love her.
Oh, God.
Yep. Yeah.
That's awful.
When I say Charles is my favorite, it's because he is absolutely the villain.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I'm just like, I live for it because he's just the worst. And when you're like, oh, he can't get worse. Oh, dear people, he will.
Yeah, he will.
Yeah. So 2 days after the engagement, Diana moves into Buckingham Palace, where she is immediately isolated. She's thrust into the royal spotlight. No one took time to help her adjust to palace life. They just moved her in and ignored her. For example, she had her 20th birthday 4 months later. Her party consisted of 6 people, including various palace staff like her housemaid, security guard, lady's maid, and the chef who made the cake.
Oh, that's so sad.
Oh, that's pretty much the happiest she gets. Yep.
Damn it.
And also, I don't mean to be very excited about it, but I've got a lot. So Diana's feeling very isolated, lonely. The palace life is just very difficult for her. She has also started battling bulimia at this time because shortly after their engagement, Charles put his arm around Diana's waist and said, "Oh, a bit chubby here, aren't we?"
Oh, God.
The first time Diana was measured for her wedding dress was in February. Her waist at that point was 29 inches. When they got married less than 5 months later, it was 23.5.
Stop.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just want to take her, and I want to take her and hug her and be like, "Oh no. No, there's so much better for you."
Welcome to the last Welcome to the last week of my life. I'm not going to lie to you. If I can make it through this whole thing, there's a bit at the end where I get a bit emotional about it.
I'm already going. I'm a couple of weeks.
Do you want me to stop?
No,
I feel like a monster.
No, it's good. It's good. It's therapeutic.
Yeah. So palace staff described Diana as 19 going on 15. She went from being a sunny, happy-go-lucky girl to dark, sullen, with constant tears and tantrums. I'm going to scream it, and I'm probably going to scream it most of this episode. All she wanted was some attention and to be loved, and someone to just openly love her and show her affection. And the royal family, very cold, not interested. So they didn't know how to handle her. So they didn't handle it properly. And I mean, Charles should be so lucky. Oh. Like, she would still be alive if the two of them, if he had just like sucked it up, been a decent man, and they were together. But there we have it. So Diana just wanted the loving home that she longed for as a child, but Charles was either too busy or just not interested. Diana felt everyone at the palace was cold and lying to her about what was going on. Everyone told her Charles and Camilla were just friends, nothing more. But then Diana overheard a phone call where Charles said to Camilla, "Whatever happens, I will always love you." Oh. So Charles and Diana's relationship moves quickly. So they don't really get the chance to get to know each other. So they didn't realize, unfortunately, until it was too late, that they were completely incompatible. The wedding happened so fast that they literally met 13 times before they got married.
Oh, God. She's also a child. Like, let's just remember, like, 19, you're still a kid. You're a child. Like, that's... I
mean, throwback to the story just moments before where I was 19 and newly engaged and like, this is it. This is the love of my life. And then it was like, oh, wow. Thank God I got that spotlight shone on that situation.
Yeah.
So Diana was very upset. She wanted out. And the wedding hadn't happened yet. She's like, I want out of this. Her sisters made the comment of, "It's too late. Your face is already on the tea towels."
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And true also.
Yeah. There has never been a time where a royal wedding has been canceled. So it was like, oh, no, that would never happen. If you were going to get out, it should have been before you got engaged. But she didn't know any better. She thought, I love this man. He loves me. And it's like, well, he's a buffoon. So 2 weeks before their wedding, Diana finds a bracelet in Charles' office. It's a gold chain with a blue enamel disc engraved with the letters F and G entwined. In case anybody's wondering, F and G stands for Fred and Gladys, which are the pet names that Charles and Camilla have for each other. Diana was told simply to ignore it. Charles gave the bracelet to Camilla on Monday and then married Diana on Wednesday.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
There's so many things. I have so many thoughts, but we got to keep going. We'll
Yep.
get to. I'll save them for the end. Keep going.
So July 29th, 1981, royal wedding, St. Paul's Cathedral. This is one of the most eagerly anticipated weddings in history. At this point, the monarchy had never been more popular, including like when the Queen was coronated. The Archbishop of Canterbury presided over the ceremony and said, "This is the stuff of which fairy tales are made." And they made it full fairy tale. We're talking Diana in a glass horse-drawn coach. She had an ivory dress with a 25-foot-long train, a Spencer tiara, a billowing tulle veil, all of it. Charles looked fairly miserable throughout the entire ceremony. And while walking down the aisle, Diana spotted Camilla in the crowd and later said, "I knew at that moment she'd just never go away." And spoiler alert, she never did.
Nope.
I love that I felt the need to add that to my notes, but that's fine. Again, I'm very nervous because I'm very excited.
I love it.
Oh, God. So Charles and Diana, they do this big dramatic romantic kiss on the balcony after their wedding, and the public just ate it up. 750 million people watched that wedding. So royal fever, alive and well.
Yes.
So what do you do after a wedding? Well, they go on a honeymoon. 14-day cruise through the Mediterranean on the royal yacht Britannia. Diana was hoping for the full romantic honeymoon, but Charles really just wanted to read. Not to mention, the yacht had 21 naval officers, royal staff, and a crew of about 200 men on board. Which sounds like a nightmare to probably everybody but Blanche.
I was just going to say, I so wish that, I wish that she had just been like, fuck it. Who wants some? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, don't worry. She will.
Of course. We haven't gotten there. Again, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah. So 1982, months after the wedding, Diana finds out she's pregnant. At this point, still battling bulimia. Now she has morning sickness on top of it. She desperately wants Charles to pay attention to her. So one day, she's about 3-4 months pregnant. Charles wants to go out riding because he really loves the horses. Diana begs him to stay with her. He says no. So she threw herself down a flight of stairs.
Oh, boy.
Charles went riding anyway.
Oh, God.
Physically, Diana was okay. Months later, she was induced because she just simply couldn't take public pressure anymore. The constant, like, is the baby here? Oh my God, what is it going to be? She couldn't take it anymore. So she's like, it was unbearable. Induce me. Let's do this. So June 21st, 1982, Diana gives birth to William Arthur Philip Lewis, AKA Dreamboat Prince William. Charles' reaction was, I'm obviously relieved and delighted because now he's done what he's supposed to do. He's made a male heir, which I find it wildly fascinating. And this is slightly off, but I just find it crazy that they're like, well, it has to be a male heir. And it's like, the Queen is a fucking woman.
I know.
So if it was a girl, if it was a girl, obviously she would have been on the throne, but it was just like, no, I get that you need a male heir to pass on the line.
Yes.
But like, fuck right off. Yeah, I'm also going to get really sassy over this too. So just a quick aside about Prince William, so nobody thinks we forget him. Since birth, he has been second in the line of succession to the British throne. In 2011, he became Duke of Cambridge and married Catherine Middleton. And between 2013 and 2018, they had children, George, Charlotte, and Louis? Not 100%.
Yeah.
Days after William was born, Diana turned 21.
Oh,
once again,
so young.
Nobody threw her a party. In the span of a year, she went from a completely unknown person to a princess, to living in a palace, to becoming a mother of a future king. So the pressure on her was immense, struggling with adapting to royal life. She struggled with postpartum depression, but the royals were just like, she's a tiresome girl, she's flawed, and they simply blamed her broken childhood as her mood.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. So 1983, Diana arriving to the scene completely changed the way the paparazzi reported on the royals. They were so ecstatic about her because up to this point, reporting on the royal family was really dull. Like the only exciting thing they had to report on was Princess Margaret's drinking problem.
Right.
So up to then, and they also would kill a lot of stories. Whereas Diana comes along and she'll be open and honest with them so they can run whatever the hell they want. They did also kill a lot of stories while Diana was around, but still. So Charles and Diana go on a tour of Australia and New Zealand in March of 83. Instead of the usual like 7 cameras that would be there for an event like that, there were more like 70.
Whoa.
So this was the beginning of worldwide Di-mania. Diana was so instantly beloved because she was willing to talk to the crowd. She showed emotions. She would hold hands with them. She acted, like a normal human, which is something the British family had never done.
Right.
They were always a step back from the people, whereas she was like, I'm one of you, and they ate it up. She was also genuine, I should say that. Charles was immensely jealous of this. He was used to being the only one getting attention, and suddenly they would go somewhere and they're screaming her name and ignoring him. And he tried to make jokes about it, but he was very humiliated. He did not like to be upstaged. He told a friend, why do they love her so much? All she ever did was say yes to me.
Oh, go to hell.
Yep. Oh, it gets worse. So Diana, again, just wanted to be loved, and her husband just wanted to be the center of attention. So here's a fun fact. In March of 84, a song was written about Princess Diana titled Diana. It was meant to be a light comedic song about Charles and Diana's wedding. However, out of fear of offending the royal couple, the song was not released on an album, but would later be released as a single. Some of the lyrics include, what you doing with a guy like him? I'd die for you. Please let me in. Can't you see you drive me wild? I'll bet you're just a reckless child. There is a rumor that Diana and this artist had an affair 10 years after this song was released. She never admitted it, and he still isn't talking. Who is this mysterious artist? Well, it is none other than Canadian singer-songwriter Bryan Adams.
Shut up!
Yeah. He performed the song at concerts, but retired it after her death.
Of course.
My quick aside about Bryan Adams. When I was a child, he was one of my big, big crushes. I had a duotang. I would cut out pictures from magazines and newspapers of boys that I had crushes on. I was 10, give me a break. And I would glue them in this duotang, and it was my crush duotang.
She says that as though she stopped. I mean, come on.
You're right. There's probably a folder somewhere on my computer. The technology's changed, but the lady hasn't.
Exactly.
So I had such a crush on him. And at the time, I was 10. And I got teased so badly for loving him because it was like, he's too old for you. Like, what? You're so stupid. I can't believe you'd like him. And I got teased so badly that I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. I don't like him at all. He's 22 years older than me. But I'm going to say at this point, I'm not going to be shamed. He is a fine-looking gentleman. So world, I am out. I am attracted to Bryan Adams. There it goes.
Listen, you heard it here first, folks. She's going on record.
Yeah. I would also like to point out that I was teased horribly for him being way too old for me. His partner for the last 12 years was born in the same year I was. So I wasn't that far off, folks.
Listen,
Yeah.
it all starts to even out when you get older.
Yeah. Well, then, again, maybe if I was like, oh, Bryan Adams, then people now would be like, I get it. Whereas when you're 10 and he's in his 30s, it's weird. But have you seen him when he's in his 30s? Nope. Blanche, not the time, hon. We'll come back.
Blanche, take a break. We gotta barrel through.
Yeah, we got stuff, Blanche. So despite all of the issues in the royal marriage, Diana gets pregnant again. And September 15th, 1984, she gave birth to Henry Charles Albert David, a.k.a. Prince Harry. Charles was disappointed
Oh my God.
as he wanted a girl. He wanted only 2 children, one of each. If only he knew you don't plan it like that. But, his reaction was, quote, "Oh God, it's a boy, and he's even got red hair." This reaction, shockingly enough, broke something inside of Diana, and she said that this was the beginning of the end of her marriage. So again, as I did with Prince William, quickly about Prince Harry, he later became Duke of Sussex, married actress Meghan Markle in 2018. They had son Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor in 2019. And then February 14th of this year, they announced a second pregnancy, the significance of which on February 14th in 1984 is when Charles and Diana announced their second pregnancy, which was Harry.
Oh, that's
so
cute.
I find it very lovely. Then, of course, in January 2020, Meghan and Harry announced they would be stepping back as senior members of the royal family in a movement that came to be known as Megxit. We do not have time to get more into that, but just so we know.
Yes.
After Harry was born, Charles and Diana stood outside the hospital and introduced him to the world. Then they went back inside, and less than an hour later, Charles left to play polo.
Of course he did.
Yep. Always be dinking that man. So shove us to 86. Charles and Diana are visiting Canada, walking around the 86 Expo. Diana, at this point, still off and on battling with bulimia. She's got depression. She's just dealing with a lot of stuff, a lot of pressures. She ends up passing out while they're walking around this event. They're taken to a private room. Charles yells at Diana, saying she should have passed out somewhere quietly behind a door. Again, as though you can plan this.
These things, yeah.
So Charles was just like an overall complete ass that year anyway, because by this point, he had just fully rekindled his relationship with Camilla. Diana once referred to Camilla as the Rottweiler because once they got a hold of something, they don't let go.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like that shade.
Right? So Charles was emotionally checked out. Diana began an affair of her own with a riding instructor, cavalry officer, James Hewitt.
Yeah.
He was athletic. He was attractive. He was attentive. He was charming. He gave her the affection and passion that she yearned for. Charles learned of the affair and was relieved.
I'm sure he was.
Yeah.
I'm sure he was. Jeez.
Yeah. At the time, it was a treasonable offense for the wife of the heir to the throne to have an affair, but no issue if the heir had one, which is a double standard bullshit I don't have time to be angry about right now.
Yeah, we got to press
We're just going to keep going.
Yeah, just know in general, we're angry.
Yeah, we're angry. We're angry at the monarchy about the patriarchy.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah. So because Hewitt is a redhead, some have theorized that Hewitt is actually Prince Harry's real father.
Oh.
And to those who have this belief, I'm going to say, go suck an egg.
Wow. Oh my gosh. So I'm glad you have proof that this is not true.
Oh God, I'm sorry. I'm very, very protective of Prince William and Harry.
I'm learning this as we go. By the second, I'm learning it more and more.
And I just don't like lies.
Sure. Well, it's like I don't like injustice. I get it. It's one of my biggest pet peeves.
He's already lost one parent. It just drives me crazy that people are trying to be like, oh, the one you have left isn't real. And it's like, okay. I'm going to stand by Diana because that's another thing. You don't fuck with Diana because again, I have so little to base this on. Just 9 documentaries is not little, but everything people have said about her, I truly think she would have been our kind of lady.
Sure.
I think in an evening, it's like, do you want to just go get a cocktail? I think she would have loved it. And I think she would have been a great time. And so I'm very, very protective of her because she got the short end of the stick.
She really did.
So I stand by Diana, and she said she didn't start any physical affair until after both of her children were born. And yes, both Hewitt and Harry have red hair. But you know who else has red hair? Diana's brother, Charles. Yeah, her brother is also named Charles, but that's another thing. So it clearly runs in the Spencer family. So that's a thing. Also, Harry was born in 1984, and Diana didn't start a relationship with Hewitt until 1986. So the math doesn't work. Leave Harry alone.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. God, my heart is racing with how passionate I'm getting.
I love it.
So Diana Hewitt, full love affair. He gets shipped off to a post in the Gulf War. Some say the royals made it happen to get them apart.
Oh.
But don't be too sad about the end of the relationship, because despite Diana's feelings, Hewitt turned out to be a complete asshole.
I had a feeling that's where this was going.
In 1994, Hewitt released a book called Princess in Love. In that, Hewitt admitted to having an affair with Diana over the course of 5 years. And since this happened before Charles and Diana separated, the book was such a huge scandal. It became a bestseller. It was the worst. After Diana died, Hewitt released another book, further detailing the affair. I refused to read either of those books as part of my research because fuck that guy.
Yeah.
So since Diana's death, Hewitt has given numerous interviews about their affair. On several occasions, he attempted to sell the more than 60 love letters she wrote him while he was serving in the Gulf War. At one point, he asked for 10 million pounds for those letters.
Stop.
He told Larry King, quote, "I think it is important to understand that they are or will become important historical documents. I think it might be irresponsible not to sell them and to generate something one can do some good with."
Boop, boop. Narcissist alert.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God.
Uh-huh. He also used his status with Diana to get himself on X Factor Battle of the Stars. So overall, he's a complete piece of shit, and I would like to stop talking about him.
Let's move on.
Yep,
Doesn't
gonna
deserve
move
any
on.
more of our breath. You know what I
Nope.
mean?
So we're gonna go 1992. Diana is over it. She's sick of having to play happy wife in public. She's just so fucking sick of it. She wants to vent her frustrations about her marriage, her feelings about the royals. So she gets a plan about a book. But she can't write a book because the queen will have that shit shut down so quickly, which I also respect that queen, because what that crafty bitch can do, Your Majesty. She's not going to listen to this, Christy. Calm down. But if she did, I'd have drinks with you, Your Majesty. So Diana gets put in touch with this author, Andrew Morton. But for the sake of plausible deniability, Diana and Morton don't actually have any contact. So Diana's friend, James Coldhorst, comes to the palace to have lunch with Diana. While he's there, he records conversations and then takes the tapes back to Morton, who secretly writes the book. So the book comes out in June, and it was shocking. There was nothing like it before in the monarchy. Again, worldwide bestseller.
Yeah.
The monarchy's motto at that point was always never explain, never complain. But Diana wore her heart on her sleeve, talked openly about her depression, her eating disorders, her unhappiness. Every story that the tabloids and newspapers had done about the royal family that the royal family denied, Diana admitted they were all true. So the royal family, yeah, this is also why I'm like, oh, Diana's our kind. So the royal family are just like reeling from this book. They were like, we can't stand it. And then 2 months later, a newspaper publishes a transcript of a phone conversation that Diana had with a friend named James Gilby. This happened over the Christmas holidays in 1989. It was a very personal, somewhat risque call. He was in his car at the time, So 2 ham radios in the area picked up the frequency and recorded the call. In the call, Diana insulted the royals, saying, quote, "After all I've done for this fucking family, she's our kind."
Now, very quickly though, is there proof that it's her? Ham radio's picking it up. Couldn't this have been any British woman role playing as Diana?
Sure, but I don't think Diana ever said it wasn't her. I'm sure they tried, but Diana was just like, it is what it is. In the phone call, he calls her darling 53 times and squidgy 14 times because Squidgy was the pet name he had for her, which is how the shocking event got the name the Squidgygate tapes.
I think I'm going to start calling you Squidgy after this.
I will prefer it, actually. Yep. But before anyone can even consider feeling sorry for Charles in any of this, 3 months later, we get Camilla Gate.
There it is.
There it is. So November 92, a transcript gets released of an intimate phone call that Charles had with Camilla at the same time that Diana was having her phone call back in 1989. This time, the very intimate phone call, which was later called like pretty much phone sex, completely embarrassed the royal family. During the call, they talked about Charles being transformed into a pair of Camilla's knickers, or even a tampon, so that Charles could just live inside your trousers or something.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So keep in mind, we got Diana's explosive book, we got Squidgy Gate,
Jesus.
And then we got Camilla Gate, all in the same year. This was between June and November. So like the royal family was not happy. So Camilla Gate was the straw that broke the camel's back. In December, the Queen pushed Charles and Diana to separate. An announcement was made at the House of Commons that Charles and Diana would separate, but there was no plan for divorce, so their status wouldn't change, and they would continue their royal duties, but apart.
Right.
Well, then we get into something called the War of the Waleses.
Oh, wow.
In 94, to mark his anniversary of his appointment of Prince of Wales, Charles let a TV crew follow him around in the hopes of boosting his public image, because the only thing good he did for his image was marry Diana, because the people loved her. They were never going to love Charles as much, and they never will, Charles. Sorry, not sorry. So at this point, the public still obsessed with Diana, not Charles. Shocking. Unfortunately for Charles, he's an idiot, and the interview completely backfired. When asked if he had been faithful in his marriage, Charles said yes, until it became irretrievably broken down, and both of us having tried. And it's like, what the fuck you doing, man? What the fuck you doing?
Yeah.
It was that interviewer trick where they asked a question and they just stayed silent, and they stayed silent long enough that he rambled more of an answer and confessed to the world that, yeah, he cheated on his wife. So that's the night that interview aired on TV. Diana went to an art gallery in a short black, like off the shoulder dress that came to be known as the revenge dress, because she was looking good, to the point where the next morning's paper, the headlines were all about Charles admitting to an affair, but the photos were all of Diana from the night before. Once again, upstaging Charles.
I love it.
Yeah. So a year later, Diana decides, you know what? It's my turn for a public interview. So she plans an interview with Martin Bashir, a journalist with BBC's Panorama. The royals would never have allowed it, so it had to be organized in complete secrecy. If the royals knew about it in advance, they would have put a stop to it. The interviewer also had to keep it a secret from the BBC itself, because the chairman of the BBC was a man named Marmaduke Hussey, who was married to Susan Hussey, who was not only the Queen's lady in waiting, but also the godmother to Prince William.
Whoa.
So the interview was a very big surprise to BBC when it aired.
That's wild.
Yeah. The interview was completely unprecedented. Diana put like a really heavy eye makeup on so that she appeared very, very doe-eyed and innocent. So well done. She was open, frank, painfully honest, talked about her bulimia and depression, overall unhappiness, Charles and Camilla's affair. She even admitted to her own affair with James Hewitt and how betrayed she felt when Hewitt released that book. When asked about Charles becoming king, Diana said, "Oof, I don't know whether he could adapt to it."
Good for her.
Good for her. And then when asked about Charles' affair, Diana said, "Well, there were 3 of us in the marriage, so it was a bit crowded." The royals felt very betrayed, and the queen was so upset about it that she pushed Charles and Diana to officially divorce.
Wow. Well, listen, I guess Diana ultimately got what she wanted. She had to play hard. She had to put on a lot of eye makeup, do some illegal interviews, but she got what she wanted. She got that divorce and she got away from Charles after all that time.
Yeah, unfortunately, she, at the time, she was a very, very well-known person. So if she wanted to do an interview, she had her pick of people. Barbara Walters, Oprah Winfrey, all the bigwigs wanted an interview. But Diana said no. She chose this Martin Bashir, who was a junior journalist at the time. So it's like, why would she choose this person? What's going on there? Well, it turns out that Bashir had a graphic designer make up fake bank statements, which gave the appearance that someone in the royal family had paid security teams to spy on Diana. So he preyed upon her fear of her security and her safety because she was already concerned after the transcripts of all those conversations had come out. So she already thought she was being recorded. They showed her these bank statements and she was like, "Oh my God, there's proof that they're following me." So Bashir was confronted. He said he wasn't thinking and he's deeply remorseful. He didn't lose his job or ever get interviewed about it. The graphic designer, Matthew Weisler, who made those false documents, which he didn't even know what he was making them for because there weren't names on it he recognized, so he didn't know what he was doing. He just did a job that he was asked to do.
Sure.
At one point, his house was broken into, and the only things taken were 2 computer disks that had original copies on there. His backups of the forged documents went mysteriously missing at work, and then he got blacklisted by BBC to the point of having to change careers.
I bet he did.
Mm-hmm.
I bet he did.
Yeah. So,
whoa.
Yeah. So before this explosive interview, a friend of Diana's suffered a relapse after a triple bypass operation. During this ordeal, Diana met Hasnat Khan, a 36-year-old doctor from Pakistan. Khan was professional, kind, honorable, compassionate. Over the next 2 years, Diana and Khan would see each other in secret. Sometimes Diana would wear a brunette wig and sunglasses when visiting him. The relationship got serious enough that Khan was even introduced to Diana's sons. Diana loved the normalcy of his existence, and as a surgeon, he was working like 90-hour work weeks, so Diana would go to his apartment and clean up, do dishes, fold laundry. It was the normal life that she longed for. In August 96, Charles and Diana officially divorced, so she lost her Royal Highness title, but became simply Diana, Princess of Wales. With the loss of her title, though, she also lost her security detail, but she kind of was into it and was like, now, here we go, false sense of freedom. The unfortunate thing is by losing the title, paparazzi were like, you know what? She's fair game now. We can do whatever. So they kind of hounded her even more because they just never let her go.
Yeah.
So in June 97, Diana orchestrated a benefit for the National AIDS Trust by auctioning off 79 of her dresses at Christie's. The auction made over $3.2 million, including $222,500 for a dress that she wore when she danced with John Travolta at the White House. Diana continues to see Hasnat Khan. He inspired her to increase her humanitarian work, which led her to Angola to bring an awareness to landmines. Diana traveled to Pakistan to meet his family in the hopes of winning their approval for marriage.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Diana had even started looking into different countries that they could possibly live in, knowing that the British paparazzi would never leave her be.
Right.
But Khan could not handle the press intrusion and told Diana they could never marry. The breakup was heart-wrenching for her. People say she never got over it because this happened in like early July of 97, and she died in August of 97. So,
oh, that's right. Wow.
Yeah. Now, sorry, I got ahead of my notes and I was really excited about that. Oh, I fucked that up. Oh, well, everyone likes me anyway, right? Again, I've become you from last week. I'm worried that this is boring. I'm nervous because I am so excited about all of this, but I'm like, there's just so much information.
Listen, I don't think it's boring at all. I think it's wildly compelling. I'm learning a lot of things I didn't know before. But listen, I feel like this is a natural place. Let's take a very quick break.
Yeah.
Refresh that drink. Get your excitement
wits about you
back up. Get your wits about you, and we'll be right back with more about Princess Diana on this episode of True Crime and Cocktails Famous Fatalities Edition.
Okay.
Welcome back to this episode of True Crime and Cocktails Famous Fatalities Edition. Of course, we are discussing Princess Diana, England's Rose. England's Rose. Now, before we left, Christy was starting to have a complete breakdown because she went out of order or something. She was like, enter. Oh no, I've gone in the wrong order. So we've reset, we've recalibrated. We're here. We're ready to go. Let's get back into it. Christy, what's next?
July 1997. Yeah. Okay, wait. No, I got this.
So much. I love it so much. Please, okay. Please.
Yeah. Picture it. July 1997. Diana, heartbroken over the end of her relationship with Hasnat Khan. Mm-hmm. Camilla seemed to be everywhere because it happened to be her 50th birthday. ITV was screening a documentary about Camilla. Charles was going to throw her a really big birthday like he didn't throw for Diana ever.
Of course.
So Diana was like, I need to scoot. Enter billionaire Mohammed Al Fayed. Now, Mohammed owned Harrods department store, which is a luxury department store in London, and the Ritz Hotel in Paris. He spent years trying to get accepted into Britain's high society. He even attempted to get a UK passport and was denied multiple times.
Wow.
So Mohammed, who had met Diana off and on throughout the years, invited Diana and her sons to vacation with him and his family in Saint-Tropez. Since Mohammed was a billionaire, Diana knew that he had full security, so she accepted the invitation. Why not? So Mohammed goes and buys a 195-foot yacht and spent 15 million pounds to entertain Diana.
Wow.
He even called his eldest son, Ahmad, who is better known as Dodi, and told him to come to Saint-Tropez immediately to help entertain their guest, even though at the time, Dodi was in Paris with his fiancée, Kelly Fisher.
There it is.
Mm-hmm. I just feel it. I know people are like, what's the point of this, Christy? What are you doing? The point is, what I remember of Princess Diana was, I remember the moment that I heard that she died. Friend of mine and I, we had gone out. Shout out to Tess. I don't think you listen, but either way. We had gone out somewhere. When we got home, her mother was on the phone and pacing, crying. And we were like, what's going on? And we walked in and first thing she said to us was, she's gone, you guys, she's gone. And she just starts crying. And we're like, what is she talking about? And my friend is like, Nana, like what's happening?
Oh, no.
And it's like, no, Princess Diana had died and her mother was beside herself. So, it was like crazy emotional. I will always remember that. And the only thing I really knew about her, like I knew about Prince William because when I was young, I was like, yep, Prince William, he's Prince Charming.
Oh,
there is a motel in a small town, I believe Melville, Saskatchewan, called the Prince William Motor Inn or something like that. And we used to pass it anytime we would go visit my grandparents in Manitoba. And I would always ask to stop because I wanted to take a picture of the sign that said Prince William. And one time they did, we stopped, I got a picture and I hung that picture. Like I used a thumbtack and stuck it to the wall in my room just so I could see his name. I was so obsessed. I had no idea at that age that Harry would end up being crazy hot, but that's not the point.
None of us did.
No.
None of us knew.
No, what a fun surprise. Anyhow.
Yeah.
So all I knew about Diana was like, you hear Diana and her boyfriend Dodi
Yes, that's
died
right.
in this thing. And it's like, what a tragic thing. At least they're together, all of this kind of thing. I had no idea that there was actually somebody she was in love with and that Dodi's more of a summer fling, but let's talk about that.
Let's.
So Dodi and Kelly Fisher, who was a model, had bought a $7 million house in Malibu and were set to be married 3 weeks later. But Dodi did as he was told and left Kelly in Paris and went to see Diana. Note, Dodi was a movie producer because daddy gave him money. But he wasn't overly successful. He was, however, very successful with women. And to top it off, he had a well-known coke habit.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So Dodi and Diana hit it off. He offered her an escape. He looked after her in the way she'd always dreamed. And when paparazzi got a photo of Dodi and Diana sharing a kiss, it set into motion a feeding frenzy. Now, this was the first time Diana was publicly seen with another man. Friends said normally Diana would like try and hide from them. This time she was like practically flaunting him in front of the press. And it's all because she wanted the photos to get out because she wanted Hasnat Khan to see it and to get jealous.
Oh,
yeah. Their heartbreak with that storyline does not ever stop.
yeah.
So August 31st, 1997. Diana at this point was on another trip with Dodi. They'd done another, I believe they were down in Saint-Tropez on the yacht. And she wanted to head home and see her boys because they were about to leave for school. And she just wanted to see them for a bit because she was obsessed with her children. She was an amazing mother. And I watched a documentary that the boys did about her and they asked them about her. And they were like, well, I mean, what else can you say? She was just like the best mom in the world. Dear listeners, I fully cried.
Yeah.
Multiple times. This is the first time doing any research that I've just openly wept. It's really beautiful. Anything that they talk about her, and I can't continue because nope. So we're going to forget that and just move on and shove our emotions down like a British monarchy.
Yes.
So Diana wants to go home. And Dodi somehow convinces her we'll do one night in Paris and then fly out the next day. So Diana and Dodi make plans. They're going to go to a fancy restaurant called Chez Benoit. But the press was hounding them so badly that they changed their plans and decided they're going to have dinner at the Ritz Hotel, which was owned by Dodi's father, Mohammed. They tried eating at the Ritz dining room, but the press again forced them to retreat to a suite. And then later that night, Dodi decides, you know what? We should go to my apartment instead of staying in this beautiful hotel. I'm sure his apartment was also beautiful, but still.
Right.
His apartment was about 2 miles away. Nobody knows why this decision was made. Some speculate Doty was trying to seem like a big man in front of Diana and go against the plans that his father had set out for them. So to avoid a massive press in the front of the hotel, Doty gets this plan. They're going to have 2 decoy vehicles at the front of the building while Doty, Diana, Doty's bodyguard, Trevor Rees-Jones, and the Rees security deputy, Henri Paul, sneak out the back. But Henri felt the need to go out the front doors, look around, and then sneak back inside. He did this multiple times. So the press is like, okay, something's going on.
Right.
So some of them wise up and move to the back door to follow them. Henri then outright taunts them and says, don't bother following. You won't catch us. At 12:20 a.m., Diana, Doty, Trevor, and Henri left the Ritz Hotel in a Mercedes S280 on loan from Étoile Limousine. That means star in French, doesn't it?
Merci beaucoup.
Étoile?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. I should have just stayed confident. There is a lesson there, folks.
Yeah.
Oh, go in confident. Stay. What was it going to be like? You don't know French? No, I don't. So, you get it wrong, but go in with confidence. 3 minutes later, the Mercedes slams into the 13th pillar in the Alma tunnel. It hit so hard that they spun away, rotating at a high speed before crashing into the opposite wall. Emergency services get a call at 12:26, arrive on scene at 12:40. Doty and Henri died instantly. Diana was in and out of consciousness, but appeared to have no severe injuries. Trevor was alive and screaming horribly as the impact had pretty much caved in his face.
Oh, God.
So Diana was removed from the vehicle, which took an incredibly long time because she had to be cut from the vehicle because it was so badly mangled. She went into cardiac arrest. After getting her stabilized, she was put into an ambulance and they didn't arrive to the hospital until 2:06 a.m. They attempted emergency surgery, but she was pronounced dead at 4 a.m. The news was kept quiet for another 2 hours in order to inform the royal family. So the shock of the impact and the deceleration on Diana's body actually displaced her heart from the left side of her body to the right, severing the pulmonary vein and rupturing her pericardium, which is the protective sac around the heart. Veins don't do the same like high pressure pumping as arteries, so they just bleed really, really slowly. So the whole time that she's sitting there, she has like a little blood on her face and they're like, oh, it's from like a small cut she received. But she was actually like her chest cavity was filling with blood at this point. If she had been in a seatbelt, possibly she could have survived it. If she had been put into an ambulance immediately and immediately taken to surgery, it's possible, but France does things, or at least at the time, differently than North America. We'll get into that. Bodyguard Trevor was taken to the same hospital as Diana with serious injuries, and after extensive treatment, he was released 34 days later. But due to his severe injuries, to this day, he has no memories from this crash. It was initially reported that he was the only one in the vehicle wearing a seatbelt. However, it has come out that no one in the car was wearing a seatbelt. Trevor was very relieved by that because bodyguards aren't supposed to wear seatbelts. They need to be able to spring into action at any given time. So he was very disappointed with himself to think he was wearing a seatbelt, which is the saddest thing I've ever heard, but okay. Despite the injuries that the airbag caused to his face, doctors said that the airbag is what actually saved Trevor's life.
Wow.
Because he was in the car, Henri was driving, Doty was behind him, and they hit at such an incredible force. They're estimating they were driving about like 90 or 100 miles per hour into that pole. And then by hitting that, because the two in the back seat didn't have seatbelts on, their bodies slammed up against the two in the front. And Dodi was a much larger human than Diana. So he hit the driver from behind, which just did not help the driver at all. Diana hitting the back seat of Trevor Rees-Jones did not really do anything to him. He also had the airbag, which helped him, whereas the other two died instantly. So there was just nothing that could be done.
I already have questions.
do you want to take a question break?
Very quickly.
Yes.
I guess my very first question is and now we're getting into the case. So now my my forensics brain is going. I'll keep it brief because I know we got a lot to get through, but it's odd to me. I understand that they were in this car going very, very fast. And there's, again, I'm sure you'll get into because they were being chased by the paparazzi, or that's the way it was portrayed in the media. And they had this crash. As somebody who has been put in the backseat of a lot of, I'm not trying to sound like a dick here, but like if you're going to an event, you're in a gown and stuff like that, you get put into the back of cars. And there are times, or if you're getting into a limo, you don't put a seatbelt on. Like it's just a weird thing. However, there have been times for me, never have I been driven in a fancy car at that speed, but there have been times where if I am not super comfortable with the driver or whatever, it makes me go like, oh shit, put your seatbelt on. You know what I mean? Like I, in general, to be clear, always wear a seatbelt, but I do understand that mindset of if you're going a short distance, like you don't think about it right away when you're getting into like it's like a weird flip. Like it's like, wait, oh, so I'm just safe because I'm in the back seat. Like that's bullshit, obviously. Sure. So I guess all of this to say, I understand that her instinct, because she's gotten into cars in that way for so long, maybe not to wear one. But when the car speeds up, it's interesting to me that they didn't put them on. That it's like, oh God, this is happening. Do you know what I mean? Agreed.
I also just came up with, don't be a chucklehead, buckle up instead.
Well, I guess we know what our next t-shirt launch is going to be. Don't be a chucklehead, buckle up instead.
No, that's what's going to get us doing speeches at local high school and elementary schools.
Oh gosh.
Because I can't wait for a principal to introduce us to just a sea of 8 to 10-year-olds.
Yep.
True crime and cocktails.
Two things we probably shouldn't be talking about here.
At a school.
Just know I've written that down. So we've got that in the hopper. Don't worry. Coming soon. But do you know what I mean? Like, again, like I understand the instinct that when you've been treated that way for so long that it's not your instinct. But again, like to me, it's like human nature that if you, for some reason, have forgotten, if you start going that fast, your instinct is to put that seatbelt on.
Agreed. I'm also going to add that Diana's sister, Sarah, said that she was religious about putting her seatbelt on.
Really?
And so she says she will wonder for the rest of her life why she didn't in that moment. Now, it is also possible that, from the moment they left the hotel till they crashed was 3 minutes. So it is possible that event went by in such a quick thing that she was like, didn't realize what was happening. Because apparently he was also driving very erratically. But again, she didn't put it on. There is a little something coming up later about the car involving the seatbelt.
I love it. I love how deeply your head is tipped down. I can't wait. All right. That was my question. Let's move on.
I have to dip my head to hide my coolness. Don't be a chucklehead. Oh my God.
Buckle up instead. I also feel like there would be a terrible rap or something that went along with it. Like, hey kids, you want to be cool? Yeah, me too.
We're going to enter the school gym. I'm going to have the beatbox. I'll have like this, the boombox on my arm.
Yep.
We'll have like outlandish, like neon color, like full Fresh Prince of Bel-Air outfits on. And we'll be like, sup, Holmes? And they'll be like, what?
And these kids will eat us alive.
Wait, we're not trying to be cool. We're trying to be kids. So sorry, we won't say sup, Holmes. We'll be like, yeet, yeet, or whatever fucking kids say.
Oh, yeah, that's what they say now, right?
I have no idea.
I don't get it.
I don't know. It's all foreign to me.
Well,
Étoile means star. No.
All right.
She's losing her damn mind.
Come on, Squidgy. Let's get back into it.
I think I like it, actually.
I'm kind of into it, too.
Yeah. I can't wait for Squidgy Gate, whatever that's going to be.
It's going to be big.
Good Lord. It'll be the day I'm caught without a seatbelt on, and they'll be like, but she's the voice behind Don't Be a Chucklehead. No, it'll never happen. I always wear my seatbelt, kids.
I do too. Again, I'm saying there maybe like one or two times in my entire life, and it was in the back of one of those. But you have that moment where you go, "Oh shit!" Like it's again. Anyway, it just stuck out. But here we go. All right. So she's tragically died.
Yes. So after her death, just an outpouring of love and support from people around the world. Charles gets into an argument with his mother, saying that he would be flying to Paris to retrieve Diana's body. The Queen didn't feel it was right, as Diana was no longer considered a royal, but Charles said, she may not be Her Royal Highness, but she's still the mother of my children. So it took fucking long enough, but Charles has finally done something right.
He's had one moment. He's had one win.
Yeah.
Jesus. Okay.
Yeah. So Britain's Prime Minister, Tony Blair, gave a speech in which he referred to Diana as the People's Princess. And that would be the first time that name would ever be associated with her.
Right.
He said that Diana is not a royal, but the public treats her as one. So agreed. Can't focus on it because I will get upset.
Yeah.
So at the time, the Queen, and like, okay, I skipped over the part. Charles does fly. He takes Diana's sisters with him. They go pick up her coffin. They bring it back. So then Charles and the Queen and the princes are at the royals' home, Balmoral in Scotland. And so the Queen didn't say anything to the public about Diana. The palace released a statement saying, the usual like shock and upset and whatever, but the country judged her for not outright speaking about it. In her defense, though, she was struggling between her role as being queen and her role as being a grandmother, because at this point you've just seen like the mother of your grandchildren die, and you're kind of trying to help them because they're not really understanding what's going on. So they had stayed in Scotland in an attempt to let the kids mourn privately, because there they could go out of the palace, that I'm sure it is, and walk around the grounds. They could go and get privacy. There's not going to be cameras in their face.
Right.
So the family kept the boys in Scotland, but the more the world mourned, the more angry and resentful they became over the Queen's silence. So the royal family gave in and returned a day early so that they could be seen. They walked around. There were hundreds of thousands of flowers and notes left outside the palace gates. So they returned a day early, walked around the flowers, read the notes, all that kind of thing. The Queen gave a speech to appease the crowd, spoke very lovely things about Diana. The public were suddenly like, oh, okay, we're fine with the Queen again. However, the royal family was then criticized for refusing to fly the flag at half-mast over Buckingham Palace. But tradition states that the flag only flies when the Queen is at the palace, and since she was in Scotland at the time, no flag would be displayed. So to appease the people, the Queen proposed the plan to fly the Union flag at half-mast during Diana's funeral. Now, get ready, because this section's in bold. It's called Fun Nerdy Flag Facts. And this is, if we had a little jingle, that's where it would come in. This would be our
fun, nerdy flag facts. We're gonna do them real good. Christy's got them for you. So sit back, get your snacks, and enjoy these fun, nerdy flag facts.
I am desperately in love with you. Just know that.
If you can't say jingle if you don't want one, you know what I mean? That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying.
I always want one. And I am so impressed you went to that level when all I was expecting was like a bare bone Carmen Sandiego.
You know me better than that.
I know. And no offense, rockapella. So until 1997, the only flag to fly at Buckingham Palace was the Royal Standard, which is the flag that is for whoever is the reigning British sovereign.
Right.
It is only flown when that sovereign is in the palace. Even in times of mourning, the Royal Standard is not at half-mast. But upon the death of that, whoever's flag it is, the flag of the next most senior member of the British family immediately goes up. Can you imagine the flag room? Like they have to have a flag room, right?
Yeah,
You have to have those suckers ready to go.
Yeah.
So in 1997, following the death of Diana, the Union flag flies from the palace when the Queen is not in residence. And it has flown at half-mast upon the deaths of members of the royal family and other times of national mourning, such as the terrorist bombings in London, the death of Margaret Thatcher, etc. So the fact that, she changed that royal family completely. And I will get into a very emotional bit near the end of how much she's changed them. And all of us, if I'm being honest, but I can't.
For sure.
Again, this week, man. So Diana's brother, the Earl Spencer, was hounded by the media, hoping for a statement. He shared a driveway with his neighbor, and his neighbor came over and was like, look, they are filling the driveway and they refuse to leave until you make a statement. So he was like, fuck it. Gonna give him a statement then. So he goes out to the end of his driveway and he's like, well, I've just prepared a little something, very light British gentleman. So then he takes out his paper and says, it would appear that every proprietor and editor of every publication that has paid for intrusive and exploitive photographs of her encouraging greedy and ruthless individuals to risk everything in pursuit of Diana's image has blood on his hands today.
Nice.
So Earl Spencer don't fuck around.
Yeah.
So he let it be known right away that we all blamed the press pretty quickly. And like the press went around and did video of all the people mourning at the palace, and they would like scream into the camera, like, you did this to her. You took her away from us, which was heavy. But, so the Queen decides Diana must have a royal funeral. She's earned it. So kudos, Queenie, for stepping up. So Diana's coffin is covered with the Royal Standard flag and 3 bouquets of flowers from William, Harry, and her brother. On top of the flowers was a card that Harry wrote that said mummy on it, and I can't think about it. Princes William and Harry, Diana's brother, Prince Charles, and his father, Prince Philip, along with 500 representatives of the various charities that Diana was involved with, walked behind the coffin from St. James Palace to Westminster Abbey. Now, this journey is about like a mile long, but watching those 2 kids walk behind their mother.
I know, I can't.
It's also, I don't know if I would still be this, I know I'd be emotional, but would I be this level emotional if she had daughters?
Well,
it's the sons, and I'm just like, as a boy mother, I'm like, no, I don't know if you can.
As a boy mother.
I don't even know if you can hear the high-pitched sound I just emitted. I'm so sorry to our editor who did. Oh, God. So once they reach Westminster, 8 Welsh guards carried Diana's coffin inside the Abbey. Now, what people need to realize about this coffin, it was lead-lined. Like, it was 700 pounds.
Wowzer.
So if the guards looked shaky and like they might drop it, it's because they might have, because it was heavy as hell.
Right.
Now, quick aside, because I'm all about learning. Christy, she's a science nerd. This isn't science. This is just, I don't know. This is just facts. Take them while you can get them. So it's royal tradition for coffins to be lead lined. It helps to preserve the body and keep out moisture, and is actually law that bodies interned above ground, such as in vaults, must be lead lined. The plan was to lay Diana to rest in the Spencer family vault, but the plan changed. She ended up in her own vault on a small island on the Allthorpe family property. But she still needed to be, it's a beautiful vault. It has her name on it.
I know, but it's just so sad because her whole thing was that she just didn't want to be alone. And then they literally put her on an island. Like, this poor woman, even in death, they literally just shipped her out to sea.
Well,
sorry, I'm just saying.
That is good point. I saw it as lovely, but now that you pointed out, what a slap in the face.
Let her be with some family. Jeez.
I'm also very upset with myself that in no way in that lead-lined conversation that I had with myself, that I did not just try and so casually drop in some sort of and it prevents them from coming back when they're zombies. I didn't add in something, but I'm taking this really seriously because
you're doing great. It's going really well.
And now I'm really, God, she's alone forever. Nope.
I know. I'm so sorry. I should have saved it to the end. I've been taking notes. I should have put on my notes.
Of course you've been taking notes. No, we need these emotional moments to remind us that we're human.
We do.
We do. Chucklehead. So, oh my God. So 2,000 people attended the funeral. Well, 2.5 billion watched it worldwide. Quick fun fact. One of the people who watched that at home on TV when she was about 16 years old? Meghan Markle. Can you imagine being like, this event that seared in my brain? Oh yeah, that was my future husband. And she was 16, he was 12. He hadn't hit that beautiful hairy stride yet.
Well, again, it's looked down upon for a good gentleman to marry a woman and further along in years. But again, we can't get into Meghan Markle because there's no time.
True, but also, who do you think paved the way so that Harry could marry Meghan Markle? Princess fucking Diana, because that lady's a saint. How was she not made a saint?
Well,
again, I will fight anybody who wants to say bad things about Princess Diana.
I don't know that anybody is.
Nobody is. I'm going back to my bar years where it's I got a couple drinks in me and I'm feisty, and just anybody that wants to say anything, it's yeah, I'll fight you. It's stop it. You will not. You'll fold like a card table. Good Lord. Okay. So tons of people watched.
Yes.
Of the people in attendance, some notable attendees include Diana's ex-boyfriend, Hasnat Khan, who, quick aside, because it's heartbreaking and we're already there, he had gone at the point where she had died, he was in Pakistan visiting his family. When he came home, there was mail on his front doormat. One of them was a birthday card that Diana had sent him. The other was an invitation to her funeral. So imagine that. Yeah, it just never stops. I believe he's happily married now. So, that's something. So notable people who were there, her ex-boyfriend, Hillary Clinton, Tom Hanks, Nicole Kidman, George Michael, Mariah Carey, Steven Spielberg, and of course, Elton John.
Yeah.
Elton John performed Candle in the Wind after being requested by the family to change some of the lyrics to suit Diana. The song, as we know, was originally written about Marilyn Monroe. More sad things of note, and a little bit synergy or synchronicity or whatever it was from last week. Again, I learn one thing and then I got to move it all out to make room for the next week.
Of course.
Two of Diana's idols, the people she idolized the most in the world, were Marilyn Monroe and Princess Grace, aka Grace Kelly. Both beautiful celebrities who were completely hounded by the press. A song written as tribute to Marilyn was redone for Diana, and Princess Grace died in a car accident.
Oh,
So
yeah, that's interesting.
what are the odds? Like the two people she like admires the most. And it's like, oh, and the things you guys have in common. I can't again. So the Diana version of the song was released as a single with the proceeds going towards Diana's charities. Song entered number 1 on the UK singles chart and became the best-selling single in UK chart history. It went platinum 9 times in the UK, 11 times in the US, and 19 times in Canada. And I think half of that was my mother, because I am fairly certain we had the CD and the cassette. And I'm pretty sure she bought it both for her mother as well. This version of the song won Elton a Grammy Award in 1998. The eulogy was given by Diana's brother, the feisty Earl Spencer. He said, Diana, oh, here she goes, who proved in the last year that she needed no royal title to continue to generate the particular brand of magic.
Yep. There we go.
Yep.
There we go.
Yep.
All right, let's get into the death stuff so we can stop crying.
Yeah, because nothing's going to take those tears away like some brutal
death details.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
Okay, so after the accident, the public so quick to blame the paparazzi for hounding them, because that's what it came out from day one. They were like, oh, it was obviously them. They hounded her. They were trying to get away, and that's what happened. Well, because it happened in Paris, the French did an investigation. 7 paparazzi photographers were taken into custody, even if they hadn't caused the crash. In France, it is a crime to leave the scene of an accident without helping.
Oh.
So they got put, the photographers also should note, they got joy out of being in that tunnel. When they got out, they were like, I got the exclusive photo. They tried selling photos of her from the car for like £600,000. The photographers were kept in jail for several days. Then they were released. Some said that they were really traumatized by the incident. And while I want to be sympathetic, boasting about getting the exclusive and selling photos of her while she's like literally dying in a vehicle, my sympathy levels are like really low. But nobody deserves to be mistreated. But when Prince William later in life was asked about memories of his mother, he said most of his memories are of him trying to cheer her up, and that most of her tears had been to deal with press intrusions. So fuck those guys, I say.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
So the French police clear the paparazzi of any wrongdoing, but consider them to be a contributing factor to the accident. But because they weren't the main factor, they were let off with slap on the wrist.
Right.
The main cause was seen as the driver, Henri Paul. Now, to start, Henri was the head of security for the Ritz Hotel. He wasn't a driver. He had a regular license, but he did not have the special license required by French law to drive a car that's registered as a limo.
Interesting.
When Dodi and Diana first arrive at the hotel, Paul was officially off for the evening, so he left the building for 3 hours. Dodi then changed plans. They called Paul. He's back in 10 minutes. Some say they saw Paul drinking at the hotel. Others claim he didn't drink at all. Lab tests show that Paul had antidepressants in his system and that he had a blood alcohol level of around 0.18, which is more than 3 times the legal limit. Doctors would estimate to get to that, he would have had to do at least 10 to 12 drinks in a small span of time.
Wow. Okay.
So Paul's parents immediately come forward and say their son is not an alcoholic. He's not on any medications, and that just 3 days before the accident, he successfully passed a demanding physical for his pilot's license. Well, I looked into it, and that demanding physical is not nearly demanding enough. So maybe he wasn't an alcoholic, sure, But was he drinking the night of the crash? There was CCTV footage from inside the hotel, and it shows him walking around, and he seems like, I don't know him personally, obviously, but he seems like he's walking around normally. He's speaking with people. Nobody seems like anything's up. But people describe him as like a normally quiet, very shy man. And yet that night he yelled at the paparazzi and was taunting them and was like, "You'll never catch us." And that feels very, Christy's got a couple of drinks in her at the bar and she's like calling people out, which is never going to end well. So witnesses to the crash say that Paul was driving erratically, swerving, speeding well beyond the limit. It is estimated that the Mercedes hit the pillar going 90 to 100 miles per hour. In 1998, Mohammed Al-Fayed, Dodi's father, launched his own investigation.
Oh.
It found multiple faults with the French police. One, the crime scene was not immediately sealed. The police showed up and they just hung out, and then just paparazzi, gawkers, all of this, just walking in and out of the scene. And then less than 4 hours after the crash, the vehicle had been removed. The tunnel was completely hosed down, swept up, and reopened to public traffic. No explanation has ever been given.
That's wild.
Mm-hmm. Now, since Paul, the driver, was a Fayed family employee, Mohammed was adamant that he was sober because he was not going to say we're at fault in any way. So Paul's blood tests got questioned. The tests got run multiple times, including one time they videotaped the test from start to finish.
Oh, wow.
When the results came back, they showed that Paul's blood alcohol was in fact 3 times over the limit, and that his liver showed signs of the early stages of chronic alcoholism. His blood samples were then DNA matched to his parents to prove that it was in fact Paul's blood.
Wow.
So now that it's proven that Henri Paul is drunk, a major contributing factor to the crash, Mohammed starts changing his strategies on this was a terrible accident and it has nothing to do with me. So he starts claiming MI6 colluded with the French authority to carry out a hit on Diana and Dodi. But why would MI6 want them dead?
Yeah.
Well, Mohammed claims because Diana was pregnant. Mm-hmm.
But okay.
Yep. Mohammed shows a photo of Diana from mid-July, and it points to it and is like, look, you can see the baby in there. First of all, the way she was positioned and the fact that she has birthed children, she's not going to be like have the flattest stomach in the world, and she still looked fucking amazing, I might add. But to point at a picture of a woman and be like, oh, you can see the baby. It's like, unless the baby's fucking waving at you, no, you can't.
Also, can we just like, this woman had an eating disorder. Can we like not be picking apart what her body looks like, please? She has died. She's alone on an island.
Okay.
Please let her rest. That is vile. That's vile.
Agreed. Also, the picture he pointed out is from before her and Dodi ever started a relationship. So Mohammed then claims the day that she died, Diana called him and told him, only him, that she was pregnant. When pressed about it, he said she was like, I don't know, 2, 4, 5 weeks. My favorite thing in the world is when men are asked things about pregnancy, because most of them are like, I don't know, she's got to be a good solid week, I would say. And it's like, oh boy.
I don't know.
So yeah, it's not happening, folks. But Diana spoke with multiple close friends in the last week of her life and never mentioned it to any of them. Not to mention, close friends claim that Diana was on her period at one point during the yacht holiday, and some of the crew claim that they saw opened package of contraceptive pills in their cabin on the yacht. To be clear, because everybody online seems to believe that this was a thing and that it's part of the conspiracy, medical reports say there is absolutely no evidence that Diana was pregnant.
And can I just very quickly ask, so, okay, let's say she was. Why does MI6 want to kill her for it?
It came down to, They're saying that the royal family is racist and they can't handle the thought of the future king of England having a stepfather who is not like a white male, or having a stepbrother who is half, whatever.
Got it.
Oh Lord. She was not pregnant when she died. When Diana was brought to the hospital, they didn't do a pregnancy test before her surgery because that is not usually a thing that they do. But the coroner did make note of her empty uterus as in his official report.
Okay.
It has also been suggested that the hospital embalmed Diana's body immediately in an attempt to hide the pregnancy. Now, did they embalm her body too quickly? Yes.
Oh.
Would the embalming have affected her blood tests? Yes. Did she have blood transfusions during her surgery, which would have also affected the test? Also, yes. Was another blood sample found that the doctors could test? Yes. A blood stain was found inside the car. It DNA matched to Diana. Did it reveal the HCG hormone that's present in pregnancies? No. Was the quick embalming kind of sketchy? Absolutely. Now, Diana was partially embalmed before her family was even given consent to do so. The reason being, the day this happened was extremely hot, and the coroner was worried about her body just badly decomposing before the family could arrive. Because it's already bad enough they have to see her like that at all, but to see her once, in the heat, I can't imagine. So after her emergency surgery, her body was kept in a room nearby because the morgue was on the other side of the hospital grounds, and it was quite a ways to get to. And there was concern that somehow she might be seen being taken to the morgue, and they didn't want it getting out in the world until the family was notified and whatever. So they put dry ice and air conditioning units in the room to help keep the body cool, but that wasn't working. So they did like a partial embalming so that she wouldn't look even worse when her family came to see her.
Right.
So the only evidence of Diana being pregnant is Mohammed's word. But riddle me this. If Diana had been pregnant, why did Mohammed wait so long to mention it? He didn't bring this information forward until May 2001, which was 4 years after the crash. So why wouldn't he have been shouting it from the rooftops right away?
And it was only after it had been completely, confirmed that Henri Paul was a drunk driver.
100%.
So,
yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Then, to try and make the pregnancy story even more believable, Mohammed started to claim that Dodi was planning to propose the night of the crash and that the couple were going to announce their engagement September 1st. Keep in mind, at this point, Diana is still in love with Hasnat Khan, and Dodi is more of like a summer fling rebound kind of guy. Dodi and Diana spent less than a month together total. Now, would some people meet and get engaged within the first month of their relationship? I'm sure. But just days before the crash, Diana spoke with her friend, Lady Annabelle Goldsmith. The tabloids had claimed that Diana was getting married, and Annabelle teased her and was like, well, you're not going to do anything silly like elope, are you? And Diana said, and I quote, I need marriage like a rash on my face. Again, I feel like she's our kind of people.
Well, and also Dodi is still engaged at this point, right?
He actually he called his fiance and dumped her 3 days before the wedding after he'd already gone off and spent a week with Diana. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But
okay.
To help with this claim, suddenly Mohammed is like, oh, he was never engaged to Kelly Fisher. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting a real picture here about this Mohammed character.
Mm-hmm. So there were claims that Dodi bought a ring at the Reposi jewelry store. Police claim they found an engagement ring at Dodi's apartment after the accident. But if there was a plan to propose, Diana did not know about it. if she knew about the engagement, I feel she would have told at least her friends. She spoke with her children like the day she died, which again, I can't get into, but you think she would tell them because she was very, very close with her children. But it's just, so I just feel this is just lies.
Yeah.
So Mohammed claimed that the royal family couldn't stand the thought of someone of Dodi's race and religion being the stepfather to the future king of England. So MI6 took him out, took both of them out.
Right.
So now I understand Mohammed has lost a son in this accident, but after it's proven that the driver was incredibly drunk, why still push conspiracy theories? Was he, I don't know, maybe guilty about something and was trying to cover his own guilt? But Christy, why would Mohammed be guilty over the death of Diana? Well, Christy, let me tell you. On one hand, in Paris, Diana was traveling from a Fayed hotel, heading to a Fayed apartment in a Fayed car driven by a Fayed driver. So that family had their hands all over it, whether it was intentionally his fault or not, it's still kind of there.
Right.
But also, Mohammed saw Diana as a prize. He thought having her in his family would finally get him accepted into British high society like he wanted. Once she accepted his invitation to the holiday in Saint-Tropez, Mohammed hired a publicist and then had his people tip off the paparazzi to ensure that they'd be photographed together. There is also a rumor that Mohammed promised Dodi 30 million pounds if he, quote, landed Diana.
Oh,
Mhm.
God.
So, still in grief, in 2005, Mohammed commissioned a 9.5-foot tall bronze statue that was placed in Harrods department store in London. It was called Innocent Victims and featured Dodi and Diana running, holding hands, and touching a bird. The internet tells me it's the statue is meant to depict Dodi and Diana dancing in the waves of the Mediterranean beneath the wings of an albatross. Well, that's supposed to symbolize freedom and eternity. Well, the statue has recently been removed from the store because Prince William and Harry have spoke out about they plan to commission a statue of their own, and the people who currently own Harrods department store were like, oh, okay, then this can go back to Mohammed. So Mohammed now has a 9.5-foot bronze statue, which
Jesus.
I'll post photos of it. It's oh God, unsettling, I guess.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot going on there. So we've got the French did their investigation. We've got Mohammed paid so much money to have people investigate for him. Well, then 2004, Scotland Yard is like, you know what? We're going to look into this ourselves. So good job waiting 8 years for that, Scotland Yard. It was called Operation Paget. It took 4 years and cost 10 million pounds.
Wow.
In 2008, the investigation released its official report. It was an 833-page dossier. I unfortunately did not have time to read it all, but I did skim the basic parts.
Of course you did.
I did a search within the document to find the things I was looking for. And that helped dispel so many of the conspiracy theories that had been going on. So some people thought the Mercedes may have been tampered with, some sort of mechanical problems. Well, the car in question, as stated earlier, was a Mercedes S280 that belonged to the company Étoile Limousine, which worked mainly with the Ritz Hotel. Étoile had bought the car secondhand from a Mercedes dealer. The car was originally bought brand new, but then was stolen in 1995 by an escaped prisoner who took it on a joyride in the French countryside. It was later found destroyed in a field near an airport, appearing to have been rolled numerous times. A Mercedes dealer rebuilt the car and sold it to Étoile. According to the report, the car was repeatedly sent back to Mercedes for repairs as drivers complained that it was, quote, unpredictable if driven faster than 37 miles per hour.
There it is.
And weeks before the accident, the car was stolen again, found, and then sent to their own garage. I know people got a real kick out of me saying garage before, for unknown repairs. A forensic accident investigator looked over the car. This dude had like 35 years experience. He found all the seat belts to be in good working order, except for the right rear one where Diana was seated. Maybe that's why she wasn't wearing a seatbelt that night. There is also the question of the seatbelt wasn't working properly. Was that something that happened during the crash? Because that car was almost accordioned. But I don't know. The point is, she religiously wore her seatbelt. She wasn't wearing it this night. They found that there were problems. Come on. People can put this together. Overall, the investigator said he found no evidence of tampering. I don't think the seatbelt was purposely done. Something was done to it. I think it was just an issue, but no evidence of overall tampering. I still don't understand why that car was used. I don't understand why Paul was the one used as a driver. But we'll never know, because the only person who knows is Doty. It was his decision. We don't know why he chose that. So this Operation Paget also looked into the driver, Henri Paul. Conspiracies cropped up that Paul was an MI6 informant, as it wouldn't be unusual for MI6 to be interested in some of the celebrities and diplomats who often stayed at the hotel. The night of the accident, Paul was unaccounted for about 3 hours. He wasn't seen at his house or any of the bars in and around the hotel, but he arrived back to the hotel less than 10 minutes after being called, so it's assumed he was probably fairly close by. After the accident, Paul was found with a substantial amount of money in his pocket. Some suggested that he was being paid as his informant, whatever he was doing. MI6 came in, they paid him for something. But why would you take money and be like, yeah, I'll get her into an accident, and then you end up dying? It's like, then what's that going to do? But people have also suggested that maybe he had this amount of money on him because he frequently ran errands for celebrity guests. And so you got to have cash on you for that. It was also found that Paul had nearly 257,000 pounds spread throughout several bank accounts, despite only making about 35,000 pounds a year. Apparently, it's not uncommon to have several bank accounts in France, and it was found that Paul owned properties that he rented out to tenants, so maybe that's potentially where some of his extra money came from. I don't know. The only really fishy thing that they found out about Henri Paul was that he had a really high level of carbon monoxide in his blood, like the kind of levels that a doctor would find if a person killed themselves by locking themselves in a garage with a car running, like that level. But nobody else in the car had that level in their system. So we don't know what that's going on weird. About. Paul's parents chose not to cremate his body because they hope that if any investigators ever want to test him in some way again, they'll be able to do that. Because again, they're still like, he doesn't drink like that. He doesn't take pills. Well, his doctor has come forward. He was on pills. So Operation Paget also looked into the conspiracy theory that the first responders on the scene were involved in Diana's death. Not only did the ambulance pass a closer hospital on the way to the other hospital, the trip took 40 minutes, even though the hospital was only about 4 miles away. And Google Map tells me that should have taken about 25, at the max 30 minutes. They also had a police escort, so they didn't have to deal with traffic or traffic lights. So according to doctors, it is believed that the closer hospital didn't have the right equipment to deal with Diana's injuries, so that's why they bypassed it. Plus they talked to the other hospital. The hospital was ready to receive them. So from what I've read, emergency medical care is treated very differently in France, as the French are taught to stabilize traumas as best they can while on the scene. So their ambulances are outfitted with much better like cardiac units than what, United States would have been, especially at the time. The first responders treated Diana at the scene for almost 40 minutes as she went into cardiac arrest when she was finally freed from the vehicle. With a police escort, they only had to stop once, and that was when her blood pressure dropped. They drove super slow, like 25, maybe 30 miles per hour, due to the severity of her injuries, because they believed if she was jostled in any way in a high-speed journey, that she would go back into cardiac arrest. They didn't realize she was bleeding internally, but she kept, going in and out of consciousness and losing blood pressure and cardiac problems. So they were like, we have to take this super slow. So that was their reasoning for it. The first doctor that arrived on scene truly believes that they did everything possible to save her life. There is a conspiracy that the accident was a professional hit carried out by British intelligence or MI6. Mohammed Al-Fayed believed this, thinking it was because of the pregnancy. Others believed it was because of Diana's charity work. Just weeks before the accident, Diana was in Angola walking through a minefield to bring worldwide attention to landmines. At the time, one of the biggest manufacturers of landmines was the British arms industry. The defense industry was making billions and billions of dollars. They weren't about to stop, and they didn't want someone getting in their way. A friend of Diana's claims that Diana was preparing to release a list of public figures who were profiting from landmine production. When word got out that she was preparing this list, she received a threatening phone call that told her she needed to shut up because it wasn't in the interest of the United Kingdom.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. So, during this Operation Paget inquest, the former head of MI6, Sir Richard Dearlove, God, I love the Brits, confirmed that during the early 90s, they had considered a plan to assassinate senior Balkan politician by forcing a car crash in a tunnel. The plan was rejected, but just the mere idea that plan ever existed and that they're so open about it is terrifying to me.
Yeah.
So then a former MI6 officer named Richard Tomlinson said the British intelligence had, quote, perfected vehicular assassination by using a powerful laser to blind people. Tomlinson also claims that he had seen plans to kill Yugoslavian president Slobodan Milosevic, and it's almost identical to what happened to Diana.
Whoa.
So even if the truth comes out and shows everybody exactly what happened, no one's going to stop thinking it was MI6 in some way.
Yeah.
So this big investigation concludes. They decide the deaths were caused by grossly negligent driving. A jury of 6 women and 5 men had a 9-2 majority that the speed and manner of the driving, the impairment of Henri Paul, and the lack of seatbelts resulted in the deaths of Princess Diana, Dodi Al-Fayed, and Henri Paul. So the inquest was very, very thorough, but it didn't answer every question that I had. 2 skid marks were found at the scene a few meters from the tunnel. These marks were measured and found to perfectly match a Mercedes S280. Experts have said this shows that Paul had already begun losing control of the car even before entering the tunnel. The marks also indicate that Paul was trying to avoid something. I don't know, like perhaps another vehicle. Multiple witnesses claim to have seen a white or light-colored car driving haphazardly away from the tunnel after the crash. When the Mercedes was examined, investigators found white paint scraped along one side of the car. They did an analysis of the paint and found that it was a specific paint only used by Fiat on its Uno series between 1983 and 1987. So French police tracked down more than 5,000 white Fiat Unos before narrowing the possibilities down to 2.
What?
First, we got James Ondenson. I don't know. He's French, so I probably butchered that, but it's fine. James just happens to be a member of the paparazzi. Months after Diana died, he openly bragged that he was there. He got great shots. They're in a vault, like tied up. They're like locked away in a vault. No one's going to see them until he sees the cash, all of this. However, police looked into him and found out that he was actually in Corsica at the time of the accident. So then he was cleared. Less than 3 years later, his body was found in a forest near his home. When police arrived on scene, they found that a vehicle was on fire with a charred body in the driver's seat. The body turned out to be James. There was a hole in his head that the police thought was a bullet hole. The coroner suggested it was probably due to the intense heat of the fire. Police listed cause of death as suicide because James was having marital troubles. But when they arrived, the car was locked and the keys have never been found.
No way.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, if that's not bananas enough, our other white Fiat Uno driver is 22-year-old Levan Tan, who claims that he was working at the time and couldn't possibly have been at the crash site. Police found pieces of a taillight from the Fiat Uno at the scene, so they inspected Tan's car, couldn't find any trace of damage at the likely point of impact, and also noted that the taillights showed the manufacture date that matched the vehicle. So they're like, oh, those are the original ones, good to go. But is it possible that Tan got the car fixed and the headlight replaced with like an exact headlight from the right year before the police saw the car?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. They didn't interview him until 2 months after the crash. And Tan's brother is a mechanic.
Oh my God.
Another interesting detail is that Tan painted the car red just hours after the crash.
Shut up.
He told police it had been done days before, but Tan's own father said he sprayed the car just hours after the crash. He was very agitated. He came home. He woke up his brother, who is a mechanic, and they did something with the car, and he said, and then they painted it red. A couple named George and Sabine Dozone reported seeing a white Fiat driving erratically after the tunnel with a large dog in the back seat wearing a muzzle. Remember the dog. The reason this stood out in Sabine's mind is because her mother drives a Fiat. Sabine also recalled some of the numbers from the license plate. When shown photos of possible suspects, the couple identified Tan as the agitated driver they had seen, and his license plate matched the numbers that Sabine had reported. The police concluded that Tan's car could have been involved in the accident, but ruled him out because he was at work on the night in question. Although they didn't actually check his alibi, they cleared him, listed him as the second Fiat Uno driver in their report. And then when asked about this, they said their focus was the car and that they considered Tan just irrelevant to the case. Even though he told police that he was at work, Tan later changed his story and said he was driving around the city. He doesn't remember where, though. He admitted to detectives he was driving around with his muzzled Rottweiler in the back seat. When asked about the accident, Tan said, quote, "I don't want to say exactly what happened. It would cause too many complications. The police have been involved and so many other powerful people. Everything happened many years ago and should be forgotten." However, when Operation Paget talks about the white Fiat, they only mention James Anderson. There is nothing noted about Tan, and the 2,000-page French police report does not mention Tan by name. What the fuck does this man know?
That's fucking crazy. That's crazy.
I'm almost done, folks.
Listen,
almost
yes,
done.
no, we've got to wrap it up. We've got to get through it. But that blew my mind. That gave me goosebumps.
Yeah. I'm also going to mention this because it comes up every time people mention Diana's, the conspiracy of her death. Diana's butler, Paul Burrell, came forward claiming to have a letter given to him by Diana in 1995, just 2 years before the crash. In the letter, Diana said, "This particular phase in my life is the most dangerous. My husband is planning an accident in my car, brake failure, or some serious head injury in order to make the path clear for him to marry Tiggy," Tiggy being the boy's nanny. Now, some people started speculating that Diana predicted her own death. Once again, oh my God, it's the royal family. They're behind it. Number one, if this was real, why did he wait until 2003 to reveal this letter?
Yeah.
And why didn't he take it to the police instead of revealing it in his book that he wrote about Diana?
Okay.
Number two, Diana's friends say that he was more than capable of copying her handwriting. Number three, it's unlikely that Charles was having an affair with the nanny, let alone wanted to marry her. Yes, he was a cheating scumbag, but it was only to be with Camilla. So there's not a chance he was going to cheat on Camilla and marry somebody else, especially a nanny. The queen would have lost her mind.
Yeah, no.
So I'm not buying any of that whatsoever. Another thing that people keep bringing up that I'm going to say in case people are like, "Oh, Christy missed it." She didn't. There is a theory about a security camera that was right at the edge of the tunnel. It stopped working at 11 p.m. the night of the crash. However, that particular camera is controlled by the Paris Urban Traffic Unit, who closes down earlier in the evening. They have no night staff on duty, and they never make recordings. They actually just watch it live. So it was a completely normal thing to have happen.
Got it.
I also want to say something nice about Camilla.
Oh.
Because I feel like I've been probably kind of hard on her tonight. I could have been harder. Oh, fuck her. But she caused so much turmoil in Diana's life, unnecessarily so. She could have just bowed out and been like, "You know what? They're married. They have children. I'm going to just stop seeing him and then let it go." But she couldn't. And I can't see the beautiful love story in that. I'm just pissed, you horse face.
I thought you said you were going to say something nice about her.
No, here we come.
Sorry, excuse me. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the joke is I said because I'd been hard on her, and then I was like, I don't know if I've been hard enough. Now I've been hard on her, so now I can say something nice. It was warranted to be mean about her. So when Charles and Camilla married in 2005, she had the option to become Princess of Wales as she was marrying the heir apparent, who was the Prince of Wales. So automatically she's Princess of Wales. She chose the title Duchess of Cornwall, stating she felt that Diana should remain the only Princess of Wales. I thought that was very lovely and respectful. And again, about fucking time, Camilla. So, in conclusion,
yes, please.
This case was a beast. And something that came up time and time again was just how lovely Princess Diana was. Just pure light and magic is just how people described her. I could honestly spend an entire episode of our show just talking about all of the beautiful things that people have said about her and the amazing work that she has done in the world. This isn't in my notes, but I'm going to do it even though we don't have the time. In 1987, the AIDS epidemic was huge. People were like, oh my God, you shouldn't touch them. If you're going to touch them, you wear gloves, whatever. Diana went to a hospital, went and talked with some AIDS patients. She shook their hands without wearing gloves. That alone sent huge things into the world of like, it's okay. You can touch them. You can hug them. You know, all of this. She made it okay. She, again, what a light of a lady. She literally, like, this is not being over the top. She changed the world. She changed how people saw things. She changed the British royals forever. She made the royal family seem like real people with real feelings. She paved the way for the public to instantly accept Kate Middleton, who was the first commoner to marry into the royal family in over 400 years.
Right.
Also, Princess Diana wanted more than anything in the world to just live a normal life. But unfortunately for Diana, she was too extraordinary to ever be normal. This concludes my oral report on the British monarchy.
Well, listen, you did great. You did great. I learned so much.
I'm a little lightheaded. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, you're very emotional.
Yeah,
again, you flushed again.
Yeah.
Listen, there's so much that we learned here. Again, we've definitely run out of time, but very quickly,
Yeah.
I gotta say, it feels like. Obviously, it feels like, alcohol's a factor. This car that had been rebuilt is a factor. The speed was a factor. All of these things combined are a factor. I think this white Fiat, I think this character is a factor, has to be, especially if there was paint on the car. That proves that there was, some amount of connection that had happened. How did that make their car potentially spin out of control? All of the above. The slow ambulance. If they got her in the ambulance sooner and got her to a hospital, got her to a closer hospital, who knows? I mean, there's just so many things that had to go wrong. It's hard to believe that, or let me rephrase. It's easy to believe that there could be conspiracy involved because there's just so many places that it could have come in.
Yes.
Right? It's not cut and dry. There's a million different places. Was the Fiat driver MI6? Was Henri Paul super drunk because he knew that night was a suicide mission? Did he try to kill himself prior? Is that why he had the carbon monoxide in his system? Because he was like, I don't think I can do this. Then he gets the call and he's like, well, I guess I'm doing it. There's so many little details, little twists and turns where it's like, again, to your point, she was a huge force in the world for good. She did use her platform in a way that I think a lot of royals prior to that did not. Even when she was no longer technically in the royal family, she was constantly doing these philanthropic. There you go. Doing these missions. Again, the landmines. I remember the AIDS thing. That was such a huge moment. It was so important. And perhaps was there some feeling about, she should, let's stop her. She's making the rest of us look bad. It's like that moment in the movie Big where he's become big and he's working really hard at his data processing job. And John Lovitz says, hey, slow down. Don't work so hard. You're making the rest of us look bad. She did change everything. She was this, bright light. She was this person that wanted to use her position for good. She was someone that hated being in the spotlight, but was trying to make the best of it. Is there some sort of motive there that it was like, you're making the rest of us look shitty? I think so.
First of all, I like anytime you have any theory that brings up pop culture in any way, like
Thank you
Tom
very much.
Hanks.
Thank you.
I like that this is now the second time Tom Hanks has come up tonight because
That's
he
right.
attended the funeral.
Yeah.
I'm also wildly curious about that, but
Yeah.
okay. I like there are just so many things. I don't know how it can't, like, it has to be something to do with the car wasn't 100% safe. The driver was just drunk out of his mind. I think that's an insanely insightful, if I may, thing to bring up, that it's like maybe he did get wasted that night because he knew this was it. This was going to be the end for him. So he was like, away you go. I have so many questions about the white Fiat. I was screaming when I read everything about it. I don't even know what to say. I mean, the one driver that claims he wasn't there, or well, he claimed he was there, and then it came out he wasn't there, but at the same time, then he dies in this crazy, bizarre way. And then there's another guy who's just like, it's fine, leave it alone, people. And I mean, it is speculated that the second guy, Levan Tai, he was originally from Vietnam. And at the time he was 22 years old. So people are thinking, even if it was just an accident that the two of them like kind of sideswiped, he was and the fact that he was like freaking out about what happened in France, I assume it's still, but at the time, it is like punishable. You could do 5 years in jail for leaving a scene without stopping. So is it possible that he thought, like, I'm an immigrant, I've left the scene, I could do some real jail time for this, I'm just going to not tell anybody it happened? Sure. But the fact that he's like, I've already talked with the police, I can't do this again, and I can't say exactly what happened. And it's like, why can't you? What's going on there? I just want to know. I mean, I'll scream from the rooftops. She wasn't pregnant.
No.
Like, and also she was very like, she was okay with getting her picture out there, but she didn't want a child out of wedlock at that point.
No,
she was
also going through a breakup. Like, if she was pregnant, I feel like it was her last boyfriend's baby. Do you know what I mean? Like, and also, you know, and I know that listen, I'm not saying that racism wasn't real. It was. And it would not shock me to hear that, you know, there would be a movement that they would want to stop her, you know, from doing that based in racism. I buy that 100%. Because, you know, that I'm very certain that there's that mindset in a lot of, you know, the deep royal family there. But it does feel like, if with all of that proof, there's just, it just doesn't feel like that was what was going on. It does feel like, again, you know, this Muhammad character feels again like there's something going on there. It's strange to me that he was so obsessed with trying to get into high society, that he was so obsessed with wanting Diana in his life, that he was trying to like literally pimp his son out. Like, if you can get her to be with you, I'll give you this huge sum of money. That feels like there's something there. Does it feel like he could have concocted a story that there could have been an accident that went wrong? You know what I mean? Like, that they were supposed to get into some sort of fender bender or something, but they weren't supposed to die. Did the Fiat screw it all up? Was there this plan that he had, you know, with Henri? Listen, get drunk, you know, drive a little erratically, let my son look like he's pulling Diana from the wreckage or something. Let him look like a hero. Like, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, was there some sort of setup like that going on, and then it just flew out of control and went wrong? Again, there's also the possibility that there was absolutely no conspiracy, and it was just a drunk driver who drove too fast and hit a thing way too hard, and that they died. And then unfortunately, you know, that was the chain of events. But again, like I said, there's just so many details here. There's just so much that's unknown. There's so much shadiness going on. I can't unequivocally say that I don't believe there was some level of conspiracy involved.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, 9 documentaries and 3 books. It's been it's been a week. There have been a lot of like conspiracy things going on. I will, of course, post the various documentaries in case anyone's interested. Again, like watching one by her sons, just hearing them talk about her was so beautiful. And then they would like go meet with people who she helped, and like it was just, there were just too many things going on that who knows what it could be. You're right. It could boil down to just basically somebody had way too much to drink. He got it in his head of like, I'm going to race these paparazzi. And he went way too fast. And then a car came out of nowhere. So he hit the brakes, sideswiped them, and that sent him on a different trajectory. Woo! That was a good word to use at this hour.
It was perfect.
Slams into the pole. And then by that point, it was like, well, there's nothing you can do. But it's just, it's also more than possible that there was something going on. I mean, in the end, I think if nothing else, we've proven what an incredible tragedy this was. I can't even imagine the children and what they had to go through. I will give Charles props once more, and I promise never again, because he won't deserve it. He did like take on some of Diana's charity work after she died, and was like trying to continue. And I feel like maybe part of it was to try and like have something in common, like have a shared interest with his sons in an attempt to like get closer with them, because now being the sole parent left, you kind of feel like you want to make sure you're there, because of course her children they are the best of her. And like Harry especially has really put himself, he walked the landmine trail that she did, and he is really involved in AIDS charities. And William is very vocal about like bereavement groups and mental health and stuff like this. He's been very open about seeing a therapist, trying to work through all the stuff of what happened with his mother. So again, I feel like they really got the best of her. And from what we've heard, William also got the worst of his father, but that's some royalty that isn't really mine to spill. But come on, we all know he's a little too much his father.
Well, yeah.
But at the same time, again, like I said to you earlier, like I had such a crush on Prince William when I was younger, and then when he got older and started, losing the hair, I was like, oof, why did I put my money on the wrong horse? Because Prince Harry, who saw that happening, it was like, oof, he got very attractive. And I feel because it's his inner light. He has that inner light that his mother has, where he'll be walking down the street. He will get down on a knee to be eye to eye with a child as he speaks to them. And there was that video at one point where he was at like a basketball game or something, and a little girl sitting beside him reached into his popcorn and took it. And like she kept taking out of his popcorn. And then when he realized, he was so lovely about it, and was like just sharing his popcorn with her. And it was just a really beautiful thing. So I feel like that really comes through. And so it's like, oof, that should have been where I put my money. But then watching these documentaries, William has made a comeback.
The comeback no one saw coming.
I know. I don't know if he deserves it yet, but there's just something very lovely about hearing them speak about her and her magic and her light. And I love Diana so much. And thank you so much to our patrons for choosing this.
Of course.
I hope that it was okay, because I have been a nervous wreck, because I had so much information I needed to get through, and I was very nervous about it. And I worry that I just like rattled off on some things and then got a little too cocky on others, but I think I got the right amount of cocky on some of them.
You did great. You did great.
But it's been a lovely experience.
It was informative. You were passionate. We had a lot of laughs. I think you did an amazing job. I would say A+, 100%.
Oh,
I got to get that report card going for you. But listen, we do need to wrap it up. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of True Crime and Cocktails, Famous Fatalities Edition. We hope you enjoyed the show. Like we said, this was our patron poll pick for the month of February. So if you want to learn some more about us on Patreon, go to patreon.com/True Crime and Cocktails. Follow us on Instagram at True Crime and Cocktails, as well as on Facebook at True Crime and Cocktails, and on Twitter at Not Detectives. Listen, Christy, you killed it, as you always do, which is no surprise to me. And I got to say, I'm very excited about our next episode because this one is very exciting and close to my heart. We are going to be tackling a new 3-part series. It is on Dateline. It is called The Widower. If you have not watched it yet, I highly recommend you watch this. It is wild. It is being advertised. The gentleman in question is being called the Tiger King of true crime. And let me tell you, he is a character. You don't want to miss this one. I promise you, it's a crazy case. Have you got to watch it yet?
I haven't. Again, 9 documentaries and 3 books.
Why did I even ask? Of course not. Well, listen, I'm excited for you to see it. I'm excited for you listeners to watch it. But don't worry, again, if you don't have time to watch it, don't think you can't listen to our next episode, because as always, we will make sure we hit all the points that you need to know in order to understand what we're talking about. That's all for tonight. Christy, do you want to say goodnight to the people?
Good night, people.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.